And we're live. I think it's just that simple.
Good morning.
Afternoon, not quite afternoon. I guess it's afternoon for all of the Eastern time zone folks, huh?
Is it afternoon?
Yeah,
No,
it's
yeah,
maybe 12 oh
as of
five for
five
them.
minutes ago. Um, Reading through. Good morning. Of course, Justice was here super early. Uh, I think he jumped in pretty much as soon as this started. Joey Scar in the chat. Good morning. Mark
Yeah.
Spurgeon. Good. I say morning. I don't know. Yeah, Joey, we're freaking live. That's the first question of the Q&A. Are we live?
We
Yes.
are
Yes,
indeed
we are
live.
live
Got Mark
with a
Spurgeon, got Tom Ciocia, uh got a question there. Um we will talk about a little bit about Nam, I'm sure. So,
A A Cyprium suggested that we start this at he says at about 5:30.
oh,
That we should have launched this as a right after. Would that be right after the Super Bowl? When's the Puppy Bowl? Is that during halftime?
yeah, I think they do that during halftime. I've never watched it, because I always watch the Super Bowl and watch the halftime
Uh,
show, good or bad. I always watch it.
yep. Morning, Tom Sosha.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted
Tom
to be.
Tom joined. Tom joined our my Patreon and
Oh, see, if he
said
were a 40-watt Patreon member, I'd know how to say his name.
you would also know how to say his name. Do you know how to say his name for the same reason I know how to say his name?
I no,
Oh, okay. I know
no.
how to say his name because Mike Socha was the catcher for the Dodgers and then later the coach for the Angels. So I just know that last name.
Oh, see,
Uh,
California teams. I don't know that you understand my disdain for the Dodgers. So,
I can't imagine your disdain for the Dodgers is worse than my disdain for the Dodgers.
well,
I'm a
no.
Padres fan.
Yeah, you probably hate the Dodgers the same way I hate the Yankees. So,
Yeah, yeah.
the phrase I use is I have never loved anything as much as I hate the Yankees.
Morden Copel, Michael Kraus. Let's
Yeah.
just
Tiki
Ian
Flamingo
Johnson.
Chicken. Um, Steel is real. Good afternoon. Yeah,
Bad
Tom
guitarist.
doesn't even
Morning,
follow
Andrew.
baseball. Yeah, bad guitarist. What's up, Andrew?
Luna. Luna's got the cat emoji in the name. Well done.
And in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a state that I just checked off my list of states I've never visited back in October. So, September, sorry.
Oh, okay. That makes okay. So, just to hit this, I guess right out the gate,
Yeah, let's go.
Joey said, "Steve, just want to let you know there was a one-off Jackson V for Buckethead that was 27-inch scale.
Oh.
So the Jackson KFC KV2 um, was a 1999 Flying V, and that is what Firefly, because Firefly just made a Buckethead clone, and I actually made the
Oh, gotcha.
comment on the most recent episode that they used a different kill switch. That's what you do with the kill switch, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually,
You
it'd be
know,
more like tapping yourself, right? But you don't want to do that on camera because that looks super awkward.
um, so that's so they don't use the arcade button switch. They use a different switch. And now that I'm looking at the Jackson one, Jackson uses the not the arcade switch. So
Gotcha.
I don't think I'm
Gotcha.
in focus, but I'm only everyone's gonna get that zoom. Enjoy that
Extreme close
zoom.
up. I don't
All
know that
right,
I'm in
there we
focus
go.
either,
That's
so it's
better.
fine. So
Oh, I just took a picture.
it'll last longer, I hear.
I don't think the Firefly one is a baritone, but I haven't paid
Yes.
that close attention to it. So
So it's a Firefly Buckethead guitar. I'm looking for it now so we can show a picture. And it's the Flying V one, not the Les Paul one they made.
correct.
Okay,
I
so
mean, I
here
can.
we go. I got
Did you
you.
already find it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Because there's a Reddit thread about it. So Oh, but I need to be able to. There it is.
Yep.
That
Oh,
would be her.
that looks squished.
It
I think.
maybe is. I don't know. This is straight from the Reddit thread. Um, let's see what people are saying about it. It's such a bad replica, it's not even funny. Wrong body shape, 22 frets instead of the original 26. Um, I wonder if the kill switch works as intended. Um, somebody else said they ordered one. They have the 27-inch scale length Les Paul one. Someone else said, "Man, I want this so bad, but I bet the bridge sucks." Andrew, no, you have to supply your own bucket. It does not come with a bucket. So,
Yeah. So let's see. I saw Snarky dropped in the chat. Coyote Stardust is in the chat. Who haven't I said hello to? I think that's everybody.
Copel's in the chat. Noise
Section 8
Bloom.
guitarist is in the chat. I don't think I've watched an entire sports ball game this millennium. That's 25 years now.
Yeah.
24
Oh
years.
God, we're a quarter of a century in to this millennium. There's
That's
a
right.
bunch of different
Snarky
number
is
references there.
Snarky is the one that I got all the information from. Oh my gosh, did I send you the Eagles penalty video because Copel says
Yes.
go Chiefs Mahomo, and there's a whole thing
Yes.
where it's like he throws they create this whole cut together thing, and he throws an interception, and the referee goes penalty against the
Other
Eagles,
team catching.
plays dead, other team touching Mr. Mahomo's ball. That's a rough joke, right? That's probably a rough joke. Morning,
Yeah,
Todd.
yeah, it's rough. It's a rough one. We've already got a thumbs down, so we're
Yeah.
doing something here,
Morning.
Steve.
Video
We're
troll.
so legit.
I've got 4 thumbs up. So
Oh, I've
on
got
my
7. We've
score.
got 7 total thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
So,
Where
um,
do you see that in
yeah,
Ecamm?
I see it in Ecamm. So
Oh,
we have
wow.
and now we have 8 thumbs up. So I see the total aggregate thumbs up.
Cool,
Yeah, it's
cool.
real rad. I don't know which one of us got the thumbs down, but we're just gonna ride it.
Probably
All
me.
right. So, Steve, while we get some question ins, y'all, we're answering your questions today. If you have any, we do have one already about Nam that's not really Nam related. It's just kind of funny. But get some in. Meanwhile, while we get some questions, Steve, talk me into or out of selling this bass.
Sell it.
Sell it? Really?
Well, I thought you were going to trade it for that
I it's
jazz.
up for trade. I've got it listed for trade. That guy is kind of waffling on whether or not he wants to trade it for the jazz bass. But then I played it this morning and I'm like, the worst thing you could possibly do is play something that you've got listed for sale.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the question, right? Here's the question I have. Is it a good bass?
Yes, it sounds spectacular. The here are the issues with it. The issues are, one, if I keep it, I'm gonna have to replace this bridge. I'm just gonna have to put the hip shot on here.
Okay.
And
What's wrong with the bridge?
these 3 post Gibson bridges, they're the vintage style ones.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just a pain in the ass to set up and to maneuver. The hip
Just
shot fixes all the issues.
sure.
But then there's the other issue that because it's a non-reverse, it sits like way left, and like my arm has to fully extend to hit the F string, F note on the first string.
You need to lengthen your strap so you can just angle it upward, and then I
Anyway,
don't know.
I'm
It
thinking
seems
about it.
like
I've got it listed, but also I know that
Martian Murray says jazz bass is cooler, and I would agree with that, except the one that you're looking at is black.
yeah, it's just a plain
Um,
black jazz bass. If it were like a sunburst or a really fun like Fiesta Red or something like that, I'd have already traded it. Absolutely would have.
let's see. Luna wants to know, did you see the guitar at NAMM that was, I think, aluminum front and back, and the middle is transparent or translucent. I don't remember who posted it, and I can't find it again. I'm not sure if this is it because I don't
Oh,
know if they were at NAM. But there's a brand called Pearson
oh,
Instruments. I'm gonna pull.
Pearson.
Yep. This tab. No, this is it.
And
The
Steve, I don't know why, but every time you share, your
big
sound
question.
goes bad. Your sound goes
Oh,
really
weird.
bad.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, hold on, I'll find it. I'll send me a link and well, I've got it. Here we go. Let's go. I don't know why you go robotic. You didn't used to. Like that's a new thing. So here we go. The future of headless.
I wonder if I just have too many tabs open.
Maybe is this it? Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just putting that out
yeah,
there
yeah,
as
yeah.
a
Waiting to see if they say
possibility.
if it is. Also, I wanted to bring this one up. Andrew, you asked, is that the base with the massive case? Yes, that case for that base could house a family of 4.
Yeah, so these Pearsons, here's what I'll say. We I don't, you never know if something's going to show up until it shows up. But
Yeah.
Pearson reached out to us about doing a demo, and I know terms were agreed to.
Okay.
So there's just the question of will it actually show up?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one. This model is what I saw on Phil McKnight's wall during his live stream on Friday. Somebody says
Oh,
they.
does he have one too?
Yeah, yeah. Vinny says he's pretty sure he did a feature on them a couple of weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure I saw this on the wall on Friday on during his live stream.
Yeah, I know a lot of other a lot of other channels have been getting them in. Shane over at In the Blues has one. I'm
Okay,
looking. Jack Fawcett has a video now. I know KDH did a
gotcha.
video on these because they're weird. Um, Tom wants to know if I have Facebook open. I do have Facebook open.
Ooh,
Let's
maybe
make
that has
Facebook
something to do
closed.
with it.
I keep Facebook open in case you need to tell me something that you
I
on the
know,
side.
I know. I'll send you a text. How about that? We'll do that.
Sure.
Text is easier.
Richard F says KYG did a demo of one, so I haven't seen that.
Oh.
Uh, it's an interesting thing. I don't. The
Oh,
model is interesting.
also, this is
Um,
not the one Luna was referencing.
Not the one. Okay, I don't know.
I don't know then. Said it almost looks like it has glass in the middle.
That
I,
sounds like. I mean, who knows? That sounds like something Minaret could have done.
yeah.
Uh, I have no idea.
Yeah. I have no idea. I I don't like this particular model, the Hyper B, but
Right.
I do find this one, the J standard, kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm honestly never gonna play a headless guitar. That's a me thing. That's not me saying they're not good or they're not right for some players. That's me saying they don't appeal to me at all. And um, I'm starting to have some brands reach out to me about some things lately, especially this year as I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that would be a no from me, just because I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
look, this is not me or the people who listen to my podcast cup of tea.
Right. Let's see. Vinny's World says, does it fold or is it just like that? It's just like that. So basically, they ship you this guitar. I believe it uses machine screws for the neck. So they ship you this guitar in a box that's half the size of a normal guitar box, and then you bolt the neck on and you string it up. So
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I assume it comes with a pack of strings, but it's shipped. My understanding is it's shipped in 3 pieces.
Look at
The
the
neck,
back of these.
yeah, the neck is
Oh.
one piece, the body is one piece, and then the bridge is like taped on. So you have to like put the bridge in place yourself.
Steve, are you familiar with Verso guitars?
Yes, but only because I've seen them
Okay.
in person at
So
NAM.
Robin, the guy who makes them, was at NAM.
Hmm.
And I did record an episode with him.
Oh, okay.
I never got to release it because we got disconnected so many times that it just broke up the
Hmm. Hmm.
conversation so much that it just I couldn't piece it back together to make it something that was cohesive. So,
My like
oh, you went robotic again. What'd you do?
so I was very
It's so
uh,
weird.
this the thing.
Let me see if I go back to not sharing if it fixes your sound. Talk again.
Talk again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Again, I'm talking.
weird.
Well, I've been like trying to do hash or
Oh,
something
whatever you just
that
did.
I never I want to figure out. I don't know. I wonder if that EMing, but all
Yeah, it's
the
still going on. This is so wild.
it is. I'm only using 57% of my memory right now.
Okay,
So
whatever you just did, it went away. Like, I don't know what you changed. I don't know what window you switched to, but it went away the moment you did it just then. As you said, I'm only using 57%.
yeah, it is all in Edge though. So maybe
Oh,
I'm just
weird.
doing have too many things open in Edge.
Maybe.
And then someone's gonna complain about the fact I'm using Edge, but Edge is Google. Like
Yeah.
Edge is just Chrome.
Yeah.
Relax,
And
everybody,
Edge is,
relax.
I'll be honest, Edge is better than Chrome at this point. Chrome is super. So when I'm recording, if I'm doing any like live audio recording, I have to close Chrome because it adds clicks and pops to my recordings in Logic. And I'm not the first
Oh,
person to
that's
have this
weird.
issue. I'm not the only person. Somebody else was using one of the Mixwave amp plugins, and they were complaining that the standalone, they don't have any noise problems. But then when they try to put it into Logic, they get clicks and pops. I said, close Chrome. And when they closed Chrome, it fixed.
Hmm.
I said, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I just closed about half of my tabs.
Okay.
So
Let's see. Let's see what happens.
Joey says, "All right, let's try this again." Has it happened yet? Has it happened yet?
No, no.
Is it happening?
Yes, right there.
Not pricing yet. Is it because it's not sharing to volume?
I don't know.
It
That's
did
super
get me.
weird.
Is when it.
It is when you try to share screen.
Okay. Yeah.
So, all right. So the Verso guitars, just to wrap this up real quick, they're
Hold on.
really
Copel
cool.
says Edge also plays in YouTube.
Oh yes, he
I don't.
does.
You oh good. You can share super
Because
chat. I wasn't
you
sure.
were talking about Edge.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
And
see.
thank you for the super chat.
Tom says, does a tab have audio? I shared it with and without audio. We'll figure this out later. Let's hit
Yeah, yeah.
this question. Sir Frodo, I guess this isn't a question as much, but Sir Frodo XD says, please give girls band Cry a chance. It's a love letter to us. Music. Oh, is that a show?
Uh, it's anime. I'm assuming.
That is a show. A multimedia project that began in 2023. And the girl in the center has a Telecaster type guitar, so I'm in.
Yeah,
I mean, you have my
it's
attention.
yeah, it's Telecaster type. We'll go with that. That's a terrible. Like, can I zoom in here? Okay, there we go.
That's
Yeah,
almost like a
that's
G&L
a GN.
headstock.
It is a GNL, dude. It's got the logo GNL. It's not GNL like. It is a GNL. So, cause like, oh, I'm gonna zoom in like super far. Enhance. That's a GNL.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I feel like there's probably a chance that I missed. Tom wants to know if I've tried turning it off and on again. I have. I mean, for what it's worth, I have not
So
turned. This is I think the downside of having like basically is like for at least as far as my brain is now like a supercomputer for a computer
yeah,
like is that I really don't do anything to try to streamline performance because like it's just like so like this is the only thing the trying to share in Ecamm
it's the only
is
thing that causes a
the only
problem.
thing that causes anything to slow down.
Well, it
When he says every major brand is in the show except for Fender, I was like very confused. I was like, I was like, this show right now? It's like, yeah, we got some Gibsons back there, but I was like, I do have a Fender.
I
I
can.
guess you can't see
I got a
it.
Fender right
He
there. It's
he's
it's right,
talking about the
literally
girls
right there.
band, talking
Yeah, I
about
know.
girls band Cry.
I know. So what I'm curious is, let's talk about this. Let's switch it a little bit. Are they paying licensing to have those brands in the show, or are brands paying placement fees to be in the show?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
one of those two things is happening. That's what I'd like to know. What do you think?
Oh no, yeah, no way. That is legitimately a GNL.
Yeah, it's got the
Like
logo.
I'm looking at other pictures that are like more clear that
Yeah.
I would share with you, but I can't because it'll crash the computer.
Well, you may as well reopen Facebook so you can send me the link.
Yeah, it's gonna take
Yeah.
and too much work.
Yeah, too much work. But yeah, I'm really curious. Uh,
There is a character that plays a jazz master that's like literally half the size of her body.
oh, nice.
So that's interesting. I
Yeah.
guess she must be like 5'1".
I see yeah, I see the Jazz Master shot now. I'm really terrified. I did an image search, so I'm really scared to just share that as
Oh,
a live screen. I'm not going to do that.
don't do it.
I see an SG
It's,
bass.
yeah, yep. I see the SG bass.
Yeah. So we got GNL, we got Fender. I mean, unless that Jazz Master is not a Fender.
No, it's not. The headstock's in another shot or
Oh,
in a
okay.
shot, and it's some other, but it's definitely like I can't tell off the picture what brand it's supposed to be. Maybe some
Yeah.
kind of
It's obviously a Jazz
Japan
Master.
domestic. Um, Sir Frodo says I think Toei is paying brand licensing, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's they're probably paying brand licensing, but there is a very real possibility that they're getting money to put those in the show.
yeah.
Because it's the same thing. It's just what's the term? Presence marketing or something like that. It's
Hmm.
just want to be seen. It's the Coca-Cola thing. Coca-Cola pays just for you to see their name all over the place. They want you to just be aware the repetition of their name in your face.
All right, I'm gonna open Facebook because I'm gonna send you a link because I did a thing.
Okay.
And there's
Let
the
me.
link. Because you can, the listing ended, but you could actually buy that blue Jazzmaster style guitar on Reverb. It's a
Oh.
Psych der
Hold on.
Rhythm
Hold on.
Psycho Master.
Let me answer this real quick. It's not. I see a couple of you saying product placement. It's not product placement. It is product placement, but the term is awareness marketing, which is a broader term than just product placement. So product placement is a form of awareness marketing, but all awareness marketing is not product placement. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Anyway, so looking at this ended listing
this ended.
for
This sold recently.
yeah, so psycho psychedorhythm psychedorhythm. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah,
Psychomaster 2023 Blue Grand Metallic made in Japan. Dude, that's really affordable if it's any good.
I'm trying to see. Like, I don't. I've seen some other people do like similar on Reverb
Look,
or on Reddit.
I love the white tuner peg vintage style tuners.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
freaking love that. Um, oh, it's got I'm not reading a description because why bother? It's got looks like it's got push push maybe in those knobs. I can't tell.
Psych Rhythm is a Japanese guitar brand.
Okay, so that is it's a legitimate. Um, let's see. Welcome to G Club Shibuya. I don't know if I said that right. I'll never know if I say this right. Um, um, obviously, all of this is translated from Japan. They only made 8 in this blue grand metallic color.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow.
Well,
So,
then.
Someone asked if it's a Halon bridge. I'm looking.
It is. It's a Halon
It is a Halon bridge.
MS-58.
Oh, that's very cool. So very fun fact that I found out recently. You folks may have noticed that maybe you can still buy them there. What
And now I'm just gonna look for Psycho Masters. Nope,
I,
that nothing.
it looks like there are certain Halon bridges that you can no longer buy
Oh.
possibly at all parts. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Because there was something in one of the bridge designs. I think it's the vibrato that is the where you mount to the body. So you can buy the Halon full stainless steel classic vibrato on all parts.
Okay.
But you can't buy. Let me see if I can find the other Halon.
So I'm showing them now, the ones you can buy
Yeah.
currently.
So you see this full stainless steel classic vibrato in the upper right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's one of them. But they have another model that they call the patented vibrato. I think I'm trying to get it up. Yeah, the patented vibrato,
Yeah.
where it's actually mounted into the plate itself. So you can see that on the Halon website.
Okay.
Uh, I'll send you that link.
Yeah.
Um,
For
and
just
that
is it
one,
just
I
Halon guitar parts?
Halon guitar parts. So that one I think you cannot get in the United States
Okay.
legally.
Legally.
Hmm.
Um
And
Bridges.
I don't remember whose design it is, but that design, the sunk in the body
Uh-huh.
of vibrato design is actually patented
Oh, interesting.
in the United States by another company.
Gotcha.
And I'll let people can figure out who that is. I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, really
Yeah,
easily. That one right there.
all parts just started carrying. Tom's right. Tom in the chat says all parts just started carrying Halon a few months ago. Um,
That is interesting. I wonder. So, I guess I'll talk about it here. Um, I'm going to be doing through 40 Watt Podcast. I'm going to be doing a
mhm.
giveaway here in the next couple of months for a J Mascis Jazzmaster that I'm fixing
Oh,
up.
cool.
I'm putting a new wiring harness in it. We're adding some options. Gun Street Wiring is doing a harness for me. We're going to put in some new Seymour Duncan pickups that are going to release in March. Um, and so I've been thinking about upgrading the hardware.
Hmm. Hmm.
I wonder if I can track down one of these patented, even though they can't sell them anymore to us. I don't know. Because that's pretty
Possibly.
cool. That's pretty rad. Hey, Amanda.
Oh yeah, particular model. So Vinny calls out in the chat that the bridge in many of the Psycho Masters is made by High Spirit, which is from San Diego.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really cool. I really want to play a high spirit guitar. I've never played one.
Well, you just have to convince Ryan to do Guitar House again, and then
I
invite yourself up.
know.
Good
I
morning,
know.
Amanda. Searching for tone, Reagan. Welcome, welcome.
All right, y'all. So we're half hour in. Let's go back and see if we got some questions here that we can highlight, because we've been talking about offsets and basses all day, which I guess that's just kind of par for the course. Um, Let me see. There was one. I'm gonna scroll back to towards the beginning of the show. Um, Here it was. Tom asked Phillip and Steve, how much
Oh,
handshaking did you guys do versus the Namthrax afflicted Ryan? I think I shook way more hands than Ryan did.
yeah, Ryan's a hugger.
Yeah.
No. um,
Ryan likes to lick faces. That's what really is
no,
going on.
I'll say probably Ryan definitely I would had more random interactions than I did. Probably had more total interactions than I did. you know,
Yeah.
given the nature of people know who he is. Um, but uh, it's not like I went out of my way to avoid it. Wasn't carrying around a bottle of hand sanitizer. That's the hand sanitizer motion, right?
Sure, that's
Um,
exactly what that is.
so yeah, I don't. I have no idea. You know, I think sometimes it's just the absolute luck of the draw, whether or not you almost die.
Yeah. Steve, do you know the answer to this? You remember, did you hear about the guitar stolen from Sully before the show?
Yeah, I did.
Do you know if they
What's
found it?
I have not heard anything that
Me,
indicating that they found it.
yeah, I haven't heard anything either. So that sucks. That sucks real, real, real bad.
Yeah,
Um,
Reagan says Brian is Namthrax patient zero. I mean, he was in a wheelchair already, so maybe he
God, I was
should have
gonna
been in
make
the
that
hospital.
joke.
Okay. Okay, if you watch the beginning of the Brian video, somebody called us out for this. Uh and it's the absolute worst coincidence in
Uh
like
oh.
probably Nam video history. The it's like in the very first 15 seconds or something like that of the Brian video, the one that just came, Brian's
Uh huh.
favorite guitars of Nam
Yeah.
2025. Uh it's literally at the very beginning. If you start the video, it's in the first 15 seconds. There's a guy behind Ryan pushing an old lady in a wheelchair.
No.
So
No.
here's Ryan pushing his wheelchair around with his fake, you know, whatever uh mannequin in the wheelchair, and then right behind him there's a guy actually pushing a person in a wheelchair.
God.
Uh
Like
and so
obviously
there
he's not meant that way, but oh.
no, there are people, there was one person in the comments that are like, did you intentionally put a like put a person in the in a wheelchair? I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, so
Um,
so for those of that don't know, Brian is permanently in a seated position. Like there's no changing that
yeah, yeah.
without breaking his legs. Um, and then there goes our YouTube feeding this to anybody after the fact because I said breaking his legs in the video. Um, but yeah, yeah. There's no way to get Brian around without a wheelchair. So
Yeah, let's see. Going back, Ian, I did not hear about any guitars stolen after the show.
yeah, I
Were
did
there
not
more?
either. Do you know what brands?
Uh,
Because that's really curious.
Luna says not calling anyone stupid, but I definitely would have worn a mask if I went to Nam. Emily, from Get Offset, usually wears a mask to these things. She'll pull it down, like, you know, to talk to specific people,
Hmm.
but if she's just walking around the floor, um, you know, she's wearing a mask. There definitely were masked people at Nam.
Yeah,
Um, I will say that like tried to strategically approach my boosters and whatnot.
I did. I did too. I did too.
So I got my flu shot in October when I had my October. I had a doctor's appointment in October, and then uh, I had and then I just scheduled my own COVID boost in December.
Yeah,
Um,
I did both of mine 2 weeks before Nam. I scheduled them as close as I could, give them time to be effective, but also
yeah,
close enough. And I felt great after.
yeah.
So,
Tom says Linus from Linus Tech Tips stopped shaking hands before the pandemic because he was tired of getting con crud, and he said it works. Yeah, yeah. It's absolutely
oh, it's a real
um,
thing. It's
a
always been a
thing.
thing. Um, and to
Um,
be honest, part of the reason people get sick from big events like this isn't just that there's so many people, the germs flying around. They're also exhausted. They're going on very little sleep.
yeah,
They're not drinking enough water. Um, not taking enough vitamins. Those kinds of things. It's a multifold problem. I will say I did shake hands, but I did a lot more fist bumping than I did anything
mm,
else. I honestly, I've been very happy with the rise in fist bumping as a means of saying hi because that's always been my preferred method. Shaking
Right,
hands is
right.
awkward.
Yeah. I'm a hand and pull.
Oh,
So
I gotcha. I gotcha.
yeah, Amanda says they should have had portable hand. I think that's supposed to be hand
Hand
washing
washing, yeah.
station.
Hand fasting though. I
Um,
kind of like that term.
but I
Um,
mean, like a lot of people, like Henning brought what, like half a dozen hand sanitizer
yeah.
things to the show. So I know Carlos, Joe's boyfriend, partner. I know it's
Partner.
just
We'll go with
at some
partner.
point it just becomes partner. Ryan repeatedly refers to him as Joe's husband, and I'm like, no,
No,
I don't think
I
that's the
don't.
case.
I don't think so.
But I'm, whatever. It's, I'm sure it's a common.
I
They
like
can deal
searching
with
for
it.
tones method. Just start licking
I
doorknobs a month in advance. And Steve's like, I am a scientist. That's not how this works.
Coyote Stardust. This is true. Shaking hands is awkward because there's no standard grip, and some people take it too far.
Mm.
My favorite thing to do is to have something that I can't like negotiate in my right hand to force people into left-handed handshakes because I just think that's hilarious.
I feel like I do that anyway, not trying to. I'm constantly the only hand free is my left hand. So that's where, again, the fist bump comes into play. You can fist bump either
Yeah.
hand, it doesn't matter. Also, the fact that we're supposed to shake with our right hand feels really ableist for right handed people.
Oh,
Left
I'm
handed
sure
people get
it
left out.
absolutely is. Somebody earlier asked about the orange O-tone 40.
Oh, I will come back to that.
Uh,
Section 8 guitars,
okay.
you're 100% right. Flying is the riskiest part of the trip. Uh, I
I think
spent
that I think that's 100%.
I spent 5 hours on a plane sitting next to one person who may or may not have been sick. So
Yeah, so I don't know where Ryan, like, just to like, and this is also speaks to the randomness of disease and transmission. Obviously, like nothing is 100% foolproof. But I like shared a room. Didn't just share a room. I shared a bed with Ryan for Thursday night, Friday night, for 3 nights. So like, and I didn't get sick, whereas Ryan got sick and was sick for like 10 days
yeah,
or something.
yep.
Like literally the we were supposed to record originally the Tuesday after Nam, or like sometime that we, like, I think it was the Tuesday after, no, it was the Friday after Nam we were supposed to record. We ended up canceling that because Ryan couldn't get through like 30 seconds of talking without like completely hacking up a lung. Um, so we ended up recording on Sunday. One episode, got through that, turn around, tried to record again on Tuesday of this week. So that's a full like 9 days, 10 days past Nam. Um, and then we only got through one episode and we had to call it. So yeah, Marcia Murray says being exposed to viruses from everywhere instead of the local, that changes it too. Snarky wants, everyone wants to know what we did in the bed
I know,
at Nam,
right?
which is very weird. Let's talk about the orange O-tone. Let's just say
Well,
what
first I
happened
need to
at
cover
Nam.
this. If Ryan was the big spoon and he was sick, would that make him a ladle of filth instead?
Oh my gosh. That was, did you just come up with that? That's pretty
uh,
impressive.
no, I definitely saw a reel from another time. It's been a few days since I saw like a reel or a
Oh,
TikTok
okay.
or something that used that term, and so I've held on to it.
Lamfin regret. Oh, it's Lamfin guitars. All of their guitars were on. Says Lamfin regrets to inform you at this year's Winter NAMM 2025 event, all of our guitars that were on display were stolen. Lamfin is offering a reward for any information that leads to the conviction and/or return of the guitars. So they're a San Francisco-based builder. This is like the wildest thing about this. Excuse me, is brands like Soli,
Oh,
the guitar that was stolen from Soli, and I'm looking at these lamb fins. Not only are they a brand I've never heard of,
yeah,
but the fact that they're a brand I've never heard of means like, what are you gonna do with these? You
yeah,
can't sell them. You will not, like, it would be impossible to, like, you'd basically have to be operating like a black market.
yeah, exactly. And they had. I'm looking at their
But that
the same
sucks.
thing you're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guitars at NAM,
Yeah.
and apparently all of them were stolen.
So
All
it
of them.
sounds like somebody was like just nicking crates or something. I don't know.
Ooh, Steve. So Andrew says they're gonna have to start putting. We got to come back to this orange amp at some point. I did pull
Yeah.
it up. They're gonna have to start putting air tags under the pick guards. I think there's a market for creating some way of installing air tags easily in guitars that aren't obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing is if you're at least for the first couple years, if you're just nicking these and you know, depending on what you're going to do with it, like
Yeah.
can you like what can you do with it? But you know, the other thing is it's like um because I know people will drop air tags like just under the pick guard or in a control
Uh huh.
cavity. Some people are saying that one person said they bought an AirTag in December of 2021 and just had to change the battery last month. I guess the flip side of it is if you are a builder and you put an AirTag into something, then like, is that something you tell your customer? Like,
Well, I would only
hey,
put it in the ones on display, like
yeah. But
take it out.
eventually you're going to sell the ones that, oh, yeah, Michael Cross has gaff tape in the control cavity. I was
Yeah.
thinking somebody said that they were waiting for somebody was mentioned that they you could put them underneath the fretboard during the build.
Oh no, that's too much. No, that's too
Oh,
much.
they said sorry, I guess the Gibson has an RFID tag under the fretboard on all their guitars. But maybe that's just for tracking in the factory. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that is. It's not the
Um
same as an air tag.
yeah, to
Tom said,
answer
"How did
this,
all their
oh,
guitars get stolen?" I do want a little anecdote here. I have a friend of mine who used to work at a Walmart, and one day she watched a guy wheeling a pallet of televisions towards the door. An employee. I'm going to use employee in
mhm,
air quotes. And it took a second for her to realize, wait, I work in electronics and I've never seen that guy before in my life. And they managed to stop him. He had bought a Walmart jacket vest off of
right.
eBay and was just going to wheel them out to his car like he was supposed to. And if she had not realized it, he absolutely would have gotten away with something like 20 televisions.
Yeah. Amanda says, is there a guitar black market? Who's playing them? And then also, why not just chain them with a long coated chain? I guarantee you, if you had chained your guitars to a booth, like people walking around NAMM are gonna think you're weird as hell.
Yeah. Well, my guess is that the theft
You
happened after they were packed
no,
up to be.
that's what that's what Ian said is they were
Yeah.
nicked from the floor while waiting for their shipping boxes.
Yeah, that sounds
So
right.
they were just somebody came in and grabbed them before, like while they were waiting for the crate to show up.
My guess is that there are enough. You know what? I should see where their booth was because right at the end of show, I mean, I doubt I got it, but I did a huge like walkthrough with my camera for B-roll that I still haven't used that I really need to get into.
Hmm.
Um, and so like right at the end, and some booths were packing up already, so I'm curious.
Yeah. They were 33, 36, so they were in the back by a lounge.
Okay.
This looks like a oh, they were over by Sire. So this
Oh,
was a
gotcha, gotcha.
part this was a they were but this is a part of the map I definitely like never went to more than maybe once.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
didn't even know they were there.
yeah. I walked
But
by
yeah,
it.
that's wild. Um
All
yeah,
right.
snarky. I think that's the main thing is like if you act like you belong and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, people just assume that you're part of, you know, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Hundred
Okay, the
percent.
orange
Yeah.
O-tone
Let's get to the
40.
orange. There we go.
Hi
I'm gonna
Mark.
I'm gonna
Other
share
Mark.
it. Let's look at it. Um, look at it.
399. It says this is for guitarists looking for a practice amp, a small venue workhorse, and a raft of tonal options. The orange O-Tone 40 is the perfect one-stop 40-watt Class AB solid-state combo, complete with a 12-inch Voice of the World speaker. The amp includes onboard reverb and tremolo, buffered effects loop, and plenty of punch in terms of volume, making it perfect for the practice room and club shows alike.
Okay, so it's a Class AB solid state practice amp.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
don't. I guess maybe I need to play one to know why. Like, what is there something about this?
So I do know that the one thing is that a departure from that what's been happening lately with solid state amps, the Class AB is significant because a lot of them have been Class D. So I think
Hmm.
all of the Crush series have been Class D, and
Okay.
to get the same output in decibels with Class D, it takes a lot more power to do that than Class AB. So
And
Class
you're talking about input power.
No, to the speakers, like volume output. To get more, like that's why you see a lot of
Interesting.
Class D bass amps are like 1,200 watts, 1,500 watts.
Well,
Yet
that's
they,
also what bass players demand.
here's the thing: that same Class D amp can't keep up with a 400 watt Class AB solid state amp
Interesting.
because of the way they output power. Um, there's lots of different places where you can see it, but like old school solid state amps are all AB, not Class D, and
Hmm.
they're going to
Hmm.
be louder with less wattage, or at least equivalent volume, max volume before distortion, whatever metric you want to use.
Yeah.
They have more volume capabilities than Class D. Class D
So
is
this
cheaper and efficient, yes, but you need a lot more power.
this has tremolo circuit in it, digital reverb, and an effects loop. I'm gonna say something really brave.
Okay.
So brave, much brave. This is $100 more than a katana. Why?
Why? Yeah, why? Because it's orange.
Like, what are you
I mean,
getting? I
Andrew
guess I'm
Andrew
trying
would
to.
say because it's orange, it makes it worth it. But
Yeah. I just don't like. I guess I'm missing that because the katanas, unless they've changed, the katanas are Class AB amps. They're not Class D. Um, it's
Tom,
50 watts, so you get 10 more watts.
yeah. So Tom says like a cheaper amp will have a less efficient speaker. It's not entirely speaker efficiency. It is the output of the way that transformer works. I am not a physicist nor am I an electronics engineer. I can only tell you the actual outcome. I can't tell you the why. I can tell you that even through the same speakers, you're going to get more volume from a lower wattage Class AB amp than you are from a Class D. That's just it's what's the way it's going to work out. I've got a 250 watt Class D. Um, I'm going to get off this, swing back to us. I've got a Class D, the Power Cab Plus from Line 6, right? And that
Hmm. Hmm.
thing cannot put out the volume that my 40-watt Bandit can.
Uh, I don't want to. Well, so there might be some other things here. Oh, do the
Yeah,
Katana 50s have an effects loop? I guess I didn't look at that. So maybe they don't have an effects loop,
maybe
and
not.
maybe that's they do not have an effects loop. So that's the I guess that's the cost difference. Michael says Katana is Class D. The original Katana I don't think was Class D,
I
unless
don't
that
think so either.
they certainly advertised it. Wait, and or unless I'm thinking of a different amp in that series. I didn't
Uh,
think the Katana
is
was
it the
Class D.
artist? Maybe the artist is a Class
Oh,
AB.
am I thinking of? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, maybe.
No, power amp input. You got a floor unit or two preamp. You can access all 50 watts of the Katana 50's Gen 3 Class AB power section
There you go.
using the power amp input. Here you bypass everything before the power amp. What you hear is exactly what you expect. So I think the Katana's always been Class AB.
I think so too. Okay.
Now I
Um,
am reading on different things, and a lot of sites are saying that Class D. So here's what my guess is what you might actually be experiencing. Oh, maybe Reeves Electro. Reeves Electro. Hi, Reeves Electro is here. Maybe
yeah, what's
don't
up,
know. No, I
Marcus?
know he's more of a discrete component guy, and so I don't know what I don't want to speak to his amp experience. What you might be experiencing, Philip, is Class D amps are designed to be extremely efficient. So 200 watts is 200 watts
Yeah.
or whatever, right? But you think about like tube amps, and this is a thing that when people say like, oh, solid state amps and tube amps are different. You know, a 40-watt tube amp will peel the paint, but a 40-watt solid state amp is a practice amp. And some of that is, as previously mentioned, it's the speaker thing. Um, but the other part of it is that a tube amp, like when you're measuring wattage, you're measuring clean output. And what you might actually be experiencing between a class A B and a class D solid state amplifier, and I'm just speculating here, is that a class D uh, power amp might be even tighter on that value. So if you think of like a tube amp, we say like a 40-watt tube amp, but you know, it once that's clean headroom, and once you start pushing into, if you're overdriving your power amp section at all, then you're like
Yeah.
above 40 watts.
Yeah. 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 Oh, exactly.
So so as soon
Well,
as you start to get like tube compression, you're starting to kind of like get to that top end and possibly going beyond. Whereas on a solid state amp, once you get to like there's like a very, once you get above like the what your power amp is rated for, or approaching that, like you go into like clipping very fast in a very different way.
did you watch Henning's video on the new Marshall amp that he blew up?
He blew up a new Marshall amp.
Yeah, he
Oh,
told us
so
this
hold
at he told us this at
hold on.
NAM, but
To finish, so my thought is it possible that with a class D amp, what you're actually experiencing is that cut where you like have overdriven the amp is happening even faster, or that because it's a lighter, more efficient design, that they just have uh more power protections in place that stop you from like overheating
I
the
don't
amp, because
know.
that was an issue with the Vox MV50.
Oh,
Is if
really?
you ran it in certain speaker configurations,
Mhm.
into you would push it into like overheat protection mode very quickly.
Matthew, we are definitely checking it. We're just trying to get through everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Matthew did ask earlier. It's not
yes.
digital modeling. The orange is fully analog,
Yeah.
except for the reverb is digital.
Hmm.
The katana, I guess, is going to be like all your effects are digital, and you have digital voicing. I know that, but I don't know if that's worth $100. I guess that's the question I have.
Yeah.
Is that worth 100? I don't want to say it's like a bad pickup. I just feel like the problem is I don't know what amps are worth anymore.
So Matthew, we are pulling questions from both sides, both 40 watt and from 60 cycle hum. Obviously, 60 cycle hums has a lot more people watching that than 40 watts does, just a bigger channel. So if you're on, I'm guessing you're on mine. Thanks for watching it over there. I really appreciate it. Um, so one of the things that in the video, I'm gonna pull up Tom's chat comment here. They did discover when Henning blew up the Marshall, because what he did, he ran it for like 2, 3, 4 hours into an attenuator on 10. And so he blew it up. Luckily, it ended up just blowing a tube. It wasn't too big a deal. And he went and got it fixed. And the guy who fixed it is the same guy who does TWS amps, I think, maybe Marco.
Tube
And so,
Workshop? Yeah.
Tube Workshop, yeah. Marco. And Marco
Hmm.
said, it looks great. He said, this is how I would have built an amp, all those things. But what happens is they're not really designed to be on 10 for that long. He said that
Right.
at
Right.
10, the problem was his attenuator was rated for 100 or 150 watts, but they found out that if you run it at 10 on a Marshall, because of the way they rate it, it's actually running closer to 180 watts. So, yeah. And Marcus says the thing that I am
Yeah.
all over.
Yeah.
Guitar amps are supposed to be inefficient. That's to me that's the thing. Um, so the orange is probably a fine amp.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's in the most competitive spot of amplifiers. That $300 to $500 solid state amp market. There are so many things there. And I don't know. I just, and It
Yeah.
feels like a departure from their Crush line, which was already pretty popular. I hope it does well. I think it'll do well. It's not something that excites me as a person.
Yeah. So one last thing, I guess a couple things. One, yeah, Ian, this is part of where the 2 watts are louder come from, is that you're measuring whatever, like if I this is a little bit, but not totally an exaggeration. If I was building an amp and I set my THD, total harmonic distortion threshold, at like 100%, then I could say that I had like an infinity watt amp.
Right.
Like obviously, like that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but like most of most of the amps, when I was actually looking at specs, you'd have like 100 watt solid state amp that was 100 watts at like 5% total harmonic distortion. So uh, presumably, now I don't think it's a linear scale, but if it were to be a linear scale, then at 100% total harmonic distortion, which would just be noise, and then it would probably catch fire, you would be outputting 100 times like 2000 watts.
Yeah.
Like that's linear.
Theoretically.
Now, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's not linear. I'm sure
No, it's
it's
logarithmic.
logarithmic, and I can't do a logarithmic calculation on the fly in my head. But
That's good.
you
You're
know,
better than me. I
but
can't do
that's
one
my
at
point.
all.
It's like it's probably more like 150 watts at like higher total harmonic distortion levels.
And
So that's one thing.
every amp builder measures watts differently too. Some measure before distortion. Some measure certain, like, I don't, there are others that are like, no, measure it at like this output level, this at
Yeah.
120 decibels or at whatever. And every amp builder does it differently. For example, I have a divided by 13 amp that's 31 watts. It is
Hmm.
easily the loudest amplifier I own.
Yeah. Is that which divided by 13 is it?
The RSA 31.
Do
While
you
you're
know
pulling
what kind of amp it's trying to be?
a Vox, it's like a hot
Yeah.
rodded
So
AC30.
that's so RSA 31. So that, but that's very classically like the Vox story, and
Yep.
you know how much of that is apocryphal, you know, but they always talk about how, like, well, the Beatles played Shea Stadium with just Vox AC30s, which when you
Exactly.
look at photos of it, there is some like rudimentary PA,
Uh,
but that's the whole thing, is that's been the legend of the Vox AC30 forever. Is one, it's a 30 watt amp that sounds really sweet cranked. Two, the Celestian Blue is an absurdly efficient speaker.
well, also, we gotta, actually, well, it's only a 15-watt speaker. It's not super efficient. I've got two blues in that divided by 13.
Power handling is not.
I know, but so one of the things about the Beatles, I gotta cover this. Like, we
Mhm.
want to talk about how the Beatles play these giant stadiums with AC30s, but they didn't. They
No, they
quickly
had like
outpaced the
Super
AC.
Beatles
Yeah, the
and
Super Beetle
whatever.
AC100s. They had 100-watt 4 by
Yeah,
12 amps out there. I do want to
but
go back to this real quick. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
so just talking about sensitivity. So this sensitivity is typically measured at like 1 watt at 1 meter or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
something like that. So the Celestian Blue is 100 decibel sensitivity. The Celestian Greenback, which is in like everything else, or like what's the other one? The
Uh,
Vintage 30 is in a bunch
vintage,
of
yeah,
things.
vintage 30 is. I'm
Celestian
not a big
Vintage
fan,
30.
but yeah,
So the Vintage 30 is also like 100 decibel speaker, but the Greenback is a 98 decibel speaker, which means if you put a Greenback in a
yeah,
Vox AC30 versus a Celestian Blue,
it
just
decreases perceived
just
output.
from that change, you are losing 2 decibels at per watt, or 2 decibels at 1 watt, which is pretty significant. And that is a thing with the old PV Blue Marvel speakers. One, that everyone says
Yeah,
that they were like a shit speaker. I can't say like what about that speaker made it bad, but I know that was the reputation. But the other thing is, I remember seeing rating lists for those where I think the Blue Marvel speaker was like a 94 decibel sensitivity. So it's a quiet speaker. And I've seen this with other things where there are other factors in design that make things better or worse. Where for the example I would give is when I was in a band, one of the bands I was in, I bought for like $100 uh I
The Blue
bought
Blue
a
Marvel is 96, by the way. I had to look it up. I had to find it. 96
the what?
decibels. The Blue Marvel
The
is a
Blue Marvel.
96, and the
But 90,
Sheffields are only 97.
which is that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
About the Sheffields. The I bought a Mesa Boogie cab, like an 80s style metal grill cloth Mesa Boogie cab with, excuse me, black shadow speakers in it.
Mm-hmm. The C90s,
Yeah.
or yeah.
I believe at the same time Ryan owned a Fender 4x12. We ran them on the same amp. Like we ran it on the Fender and then we put it on the Mesa, and the Mesa had a blown speaker. There was one speaker that like it wasn't blown, it was just it had a massive hole in it, but it
Yeah.
still worked. The Mesa was noticeably louder. I wouldn't say it's double the volume, but it was noticeably louder to the extent where it was like, oh my God, like what is happening here? And that's just same amp, same room, like literally the two cabs sitting side by side. And all we did was unplug the amp and move it over like from the Fender to the other to the Mesa. And
Uh-huh.
it was way, it also sounded way better because it's
Yeah,
Mesa.
yeah.
But what's the difference here? Well, you've got speakers are different. I think the Mesa was also like way heavier, which is a factor of the speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like an overbuilt, like 5/8. I think it's like a 5/8, 7-ply Baltic birch
They're
uh,
good cabs. Even their cheap
cabinet.
cabs are good.
I think the Fender cabinet was just like MDF and like whatever speakers they had laying around. So you have these things that are different about it that are all contributing to like this thing being louder, and none of that is measurable in watts.
No, because
So
I looked it up. The C90 has an efficiency of 99 decibels.
which one? The
The
C90?
the yeah, the Black Shadow
Yeah.
C90.
So those are all things that factor in. Um, so I think that's kind of my last piece. I do kind of see where Matthew's coming from. Um, yeah, if you're looking for something that's solid state
God,
and
I've never
solid state
played a
class
Mesa.
AB.
I've never played a Mesa 412 with those Black Shadows, but I can only
Yeah.
imagine it's brutal.
They make everything sound good, man. I plugged in a Crate GFX 15
Mm-hmm.
into one of those things. I don't remember how I did. Oh, because I think there's like a power out or something on it. And that is super,
Yeah,
sounded great. So Mesa Boogie cabinets, they make any amp sound good.
that's their new slogan. New
Yeah,
slogan.
Gibson, hit me up. I heard you have a open slot on your artist roster, so let me know.
Matthew, you mentioned as a pretty much tube only player, been looking at fully analog solid states, and the orange O looks interesting. I'm gonna tell you. So this is where I stand on that. If you want a good, great sounding, even Class AB solid state amp that sounds just great, just buy
Hmm.
a used Bandit, dude. Find a either a teal stripe or a silver panel Bandit. I bought one last year for $180, and
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
amazing. So I'm always gonna go for. In fact, I think Steve, I think that's gonna be my new thing is collecting old '80s.
Oh, come on.
I think it
Like
is.
old PV?
Yeah, like old metal
Oh.
side panel PV stuff. I keep looking at it, dude. I keep looking at it. Oh, anyway, just get a PV.
Yeah, let's see. I
An
know a
old
lot of
PV, an old
I
one.
know a lot of things came in. Oh, the Fano Sonic Sphere. What is that?
I,
There's a Fano aluminum. I did not see this at NAM, but apparently it was
yeah, I
at
don't know.
the Fano booth.
Okay, I see. It's the funny spelling.
Well,
So
that's the way the new company is spelled.
yeah, that's
So
true. Here it is.
this
The
is from
Fano
2013. So this is from Dennis Fano era Fano
20 win 13. Yeah.
13. Yeah, which explains why it's called the Sonic with a P.
Yeah,
Because I
well
know that's his whole deal.
that's from a song by a
Yeah.
band that I need to remember, but I can't.
I looked at
XTC. It's an XTC
XTC.
song.
It's
Yeah.
actually, yeah, well, and even that's a weird story because I looked that up and it's not an XTC song. It's a Dukes of the Stratosphere song. Also,
Oh.
Stratosphere is spelled the same as how sphere is spelled here, but Dukes of the Stratosphere. So Sonic Sunspot is counted is the second album by English rock band the Dukes of the Stratosphere, but it is also counted as XTC's 10th studio album. So I
Okay.
think it's like they were they were an XTC spin-off band, but they were originally publicized as a mysterious new act.
Oh God.
So it
Okay,
was all,
that makes
but it's like
sense.
the 80s, so you could get away with anything. The internet didn't exist.
Michael Krause, you sold it because you wanted room in your house. That's why you sold a
Yeah.
412 Mesa.
So Tom says, was the Mesa closed back? It was, but the Fender was also closed back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Fender cabinets. Never has there been a time in the history of Fender where they've ever been accused of using the most efficient speakers on the planet.
no, no. I don't. If we missed a question, I
Yeah, yeah,
think
we totally have.
I ranted on the amp stuff for so long that
It's
there's
okay.
definitely just ask it again. I need to do like the Phil McKnight thing is and just be like, if you want your question read, if you want to guarantee your question gets read, super chat it.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
but here's the
That
thing about
that or
super chats is
we co-op Amanda to save them like she does for Phil.
yeah. Uh, here's the thing about super chats. Philip and I don't see any of that money. Ryan takes all of that money.
Yeah, no. So if y'all start super chatting, that means we will start invoicing Ryan for those super chats.
Oh my god, that would drive him insane. Yeah, or get Amanda to send them to you like he does.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, the Luna says the Fano was in a Guitar Geek video. Dude, that guy hustled so hard.
I can't.
Back, backing up slightly, Tom says they did Fluff dirty, especially releasing the proper Artie reissue after kicking him to the curb.
This
So
is the
Gibson,
answer. This is the answer, Steve. Super chat on the 40-watt channel. I'll split it with Steve.
that's true. That's true. If you super chat,
That
if you super
I'll get
chat
it and I can
through
split
the
it.
that's funny.
We can bypass
Oh yeah,
Ryan entirely in this.
Harold Glopp. This was the question I was trying to find that I couldn't get back to. Do you think Fender would price the new standards as classic vibes if the line doesn't pick up and stocks don't fly? I don't think. I think it would take a bit to get it down to four. Is the classic vibe currently 450?
450. Yeah.
Um,
I don't
let's see.
think they do. I don't think it happens. I don't think it can happen.
Oh, they're 430. I'm looking at
Yeah.
them right now. The fifth Squire Classic 550s is 430. I think you'll see them knocked down in like $50 increments.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see them at classic vibe prices. Um I I don't get the hate behind these new Fenders. Um it's one of those things like somebody tried to say, "Oh, they're just money grabbing." Literally every for-profit company is money grabbing because they need to make
Yeah,
money to
yeah.
exist. So, yeah,
I,
they felt like they saw a hole in the market that they could fill, and the market will decide if it was the right move or not.
yeah, I have heard people say that they've played these now. You know, they're starting to see them in stores and playing them, and they're not good. That the ones that people are seeing in stores aren't great, are like not good. So that's that's rough.
Yeah, and we'll talk
Um,
about this. Fender does sales on their site so often, or every so often, we'll see them priced down. Yeah, to the detriment of their dealers. Their dealers are not happy with the
yeah,
Fender Direct pricing and the fact that they can't even price them. Like Fender prices things on their site cheaper than their dealers can buy them sometimes.
yeah. I think, you know, maybe I'm starting to come around on it a little bit. The idea that, so, where am I? Where was it? Coyote Stardust says it's not so much about hate so much as they made a mediocre guitar at the price point, and I think
Yeah.
I think I'm fine with that. $600. Was it just a slapping the you know, the one again, the ones that I played, but I didn't play them back to back, you know, with a Squire or anything. But the thing I was thinking about earlier this week on this topic is that the Fender Standard was surpassed by the Classic Vibe when the Classic Vibe was launched.
Yep. Yes,
For
it
about a
was.
5 or 6 year period when those two guitars overlapped, if people said like, would you get a Classic Vibe or get a standard, what, Telecaster or whatever, I would always say Classic Vibe. So the idea that like, oh, they made this guitar, now they've like pushed it down, and there this is like, was it Self Burning Toast, they seem just like in my M90s Fender, not good but will be
Yeah.
on sale. Like, I think the idea that it's a mid guitar, I think one of the problems perhaps is that Fender, that there's so much happening on Amazon
Yeah.
and on
Well, look at the brands that
whatever.
started on Amazon that are now kind of legit brands. Look at what Donner has become.
Yeah. Yeah.
Donner has actually cool looking, I didn't get to play one, but cool looking tweed tube amps that I'm going to try to hit
Yeah.
somebody up to try to get one to try it out on the channel. But
There's
also, while you're talking about this,
go
Steve,
ahead.
I want to, this, because this all plays in, I want to talk about this as well. The new Fender's coming out of the same factory as the PRS Silver Sky SEs. That's true and not true at the same time. So the new Fenders are being made by Court in Indonesia, which is the same company that makes the PRS Silver Sky SEs.
Hmm.
The difference being, here's the thing about the whole same factory, sure, but they're still built to a price point in the same way that any factory can build two products that are two different price points and therefore two different qualities. So we can't necessarily say because they're coming out of the same company in Indonesia that they're the same
Right.
quality level, because also when Cortec got the contract to build PRS SEs, they built a factory just for PRS.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
The PRS is its own facility, its own employees, its own builders, just to build those SE guitars.
Yeah.
So
They also make Ibanez and GNL apparently, and
yeah, yeah.
as well as
Court,
Squire.
as
So
well as Court. Court
as well,
guitars have been made for years there.
yeah.
I like Court guitars a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I used to play a few. They used to come through the little secondhand store I'd hang out in back home. And if you want to find, it's going to be hit or miss. They're not all going to be good. But if you're just looking for something a little different and want to try something, dude, look for a used Court guitar. They're great.
Yeah. So I think, there's different ideas. I think the reaction was so visceral, and to the extent that somebody on Instagram was like getting in a fight with Ryan because Ryan sometimes doesn't answer questions. He just like, it's almost like being kind of intentionally obtuse.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but somebody said like, well, is Fender gonna like, is this a sign that Fender's gonna go out of business? Or I don't remember exactly what the person said, but it was like, no, like, the failure of the standard line isn't going to crush Fender unless they like way over committed to it, which I doubt.
Yeah.
They don't have any offsets in the standard line right now. I think if the standard line's successful, maybe we see um
I don't see,
the
okay, I don't see how they build an off, well, I guess they could, but like I really have a hard time seeing them building a Fender offset at that price point even in an overseas factory, because the cost is higher. Like the hardware is a little more expensive unless it's just shit hardware. Um
what's the price difference between,
like a strap
I mean,
bridge and an offset
the
bridge are very different prices.
but
I
the
say
classic
very.
no, but the classic 5 Jazzmaster is the same price as the classic 5 Stratocaster.
That's okay, that's true. I didn't think about that.
um The classic Vibe Jaguar is a little more. It's $30 more. So I mean, I'm saying like I think they could put out a Fender standard Jazzmaster for say like 650.
Yeah.
You
But
know.
here's my thing. And again, this is not me ragging on the existence of the standards.
Hmm.
I feel like the Squire name has done such a turnaround because of the Classic Vibe series, and you get so many more options as far as finish and styles inside of Squire. I think the only people that will buy this Fender
Hmm.
Standard over a Classic Vibe Squire are headstock kings and queens who care
Sure,
about what the
sure.
headstock says.
Player
Because,
two jet real quick. Player two
yeah,
Jazzmaster is $830, so it's $30 more than the rest of the line. So
okay.
it's established that like it's that to me means it's doable.
Yeah, okay. That's closer than I thought it was. So yeah, it's totally doable. But at the same time, I think I'd much rather buy a classic vibe Sonic Blue Jazz Master than I
Hmm.
would buy whatever the boring colors they're going to offer us on a standard are.
Well, I mean, that's certainly I think a calculus.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, there's let's see, yeah, yeah. Tom says the same thing I just said. They make CV offsets. Man, everyone's dunking on you. You fucked up, bro.
Me? I
Yeah,
mean,
about
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I'm just giving you a hard time. This
I mean, I'm
some
happy
people
to
are
be
saying,
wrong.
so I think where Fender made the biggest miscalculation with these is spec to spec, which specs only says so much. Somebody on YouTube on a 60 cycle hum video this morning said on our or no, it's on TikTok on one of our shorts where I said like where I think Ryan says something to the effect of like just ignore the specs and play the guitar, like, and someone says like, well, the specs tell you how the guitar is going to play, and it's like, no, the specs tell you what the guitar is made out of. Like, they don't tell you how the guitar is going to play. They don't tell you anything about QC.
Yeah,
They
no.
just tell you what parts were used to make the guitar. Now, you might think that tells you something about the tonal quality of the guitar or what parts out of the gate you might want to replace. I understand that. You know, that's been my argument that they're going back to like the ceramic pickups with this. And I think that that's an optics thing. But to me, the biggest issue with the standard series is optics. And so the one of the things is amusing to me is, you know, all of the Chinese factories are slapping stainless steel and everything. I guess Ibanez is slapping stainless steel at like under $400. I think our Sires is the Sire T5, does that have a, or the Sire T7 is $641, does that have stainless steel frets?
I
I
can
guess
tell you.
I'm looking for that right now. The Larry Carlton neck, it does not call out stainless steel, so I'm going to assume it doesn't. I had a heck of a time because Sire also is very cagey about what kind of pickups they use.
Oh,
Because
really?
well, there's one place that says that they use Alnico pickups for, but it's only on one page. It's not anywhere else. Everywhere else, they just say like Sire T7 blah 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 number letter pickups designed to
Oh,
Larry Carlton's spec. And that's all they say is that Larry Carlton approved the spec. They don't tell you what they're made out of, which is weird.
yeah.
But again, that goes
That's not a
back to
lot
what
to
we're
go on,
saying is
is it?
like, even though in my head I'm like, ugh, blah, ceramic pickups, no, like that is a mindset that I'm in that's maybe not like the mindset I should be in,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe that's like well, I for some reason in my head I thought, well, maybe the JB, because the JB as a hot output uses ceramic, but it doesn't. It's out nickel 5. So uh, about to prove myself wrong.
So Michael Krause says specs like radius scaling, etc., do tell you something about how it will play. They do,
But
but
they don't.
also they're yeah, but they don't because a lot of other things come into play. I know that there are certain radiuses I think I don't like, but then I've been surprised by some. Like I've really gotten into a compound radius recently that I thought I would hate. My Telecaster has a compound radius on it, and I really like it. Um, so why are almost all Sire guitars labeled as Larry Carlton models? Because Larry Carlton has a stake in the company.
Yeah. It's the same
So
reason all of the Sire bases are was it
Marcus
Victor
Miller,
Lugan? Marcus
Marcus
Miller.
Miller, yeah,
Yeah.
they're all because they have a
Yeah.
stake in the business. I want to go back a couple of comments here.
Well,
Brad
I just
Jones,
want I just
I
wanted to
said Sonic Blue because that's what's available on the Fender website. I don't see a
yeah.
Daphne Blue.
I wanted to comment on the same thing that you were saying. Like the specs tell you something about how it will play in terms of whether or not it will be comfortable for you, right? Radius, scale, like those kinds of things. But if I tell you like, okay, this guitar has a 12-inch radius and 24 and a 3/4. Like all I'm really telling you is that it's a Gibson style neck and scale length, right? I'm not telling you, and I say like the neck is a certain shape. I'm telling
Yeah.
you like these are Gibson style specs. What I'm not telling you is whether or not the frets are dressed properly. I'm not telling you, any tonal qualities of the wood. I'm not telling you if the nut was properly cut. Like, I think the QC component is a bigger part of it than anything else. So I just, I think maybe there's a sensitivity here because when people react one way, I tend to want to react the other way out of the gate.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I love it. You're a
there
contrarian. It's
there's
fine.
there's a lot of like, Mark MJD says Lee and Danish Pete dunked hard on the ceramics. They've played both of them. I haven't played both of them yet. Landon Bailey, Matt Weaver says Landon Bailey compared a standard to a Squire Affinity. He bought them both.
Yeah, he
He
bought them
bought
both.
both of them, and people are just sitting there like, well, you're just shilling for Fender, like you got all this stuff for free. And he's like, no, like this fucking video cost me $1,000.
Yeah,
Like,
we know
it's
because he
like
told us when he bought them.
it's a Canadian $1,000, but it's still $1,000.
So, Steve, let's. Here's the thing. We're gonna look at the player two versus the standard. So here's a player two,
Yeah.
right? This is on Sweetwater's site. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing.
Hmm.
$799.99, so $800, right?
Yeah.
Just, just now. The thing I like about Sweetwater is their pictures are typically real pictures of guitars they have in stock, right?
Yep.
They take
Yep.
their own photos, so they're not stock. They're not some weird.
Hmm.
They're not some weird AI photo of it. I'm gonna move this over. Um, so player two, $800. I want you to just look at it, and now we're gonna look at the standard. Looks alone, you can look at it and see a difference, right? So here's the deal: $200 difference. That is gonna be wood selection. That's gonna be Alnico versus ceramic.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's gonna be a thing. Um, I just flipping between the two. Here's my thing.
I actually think
But
the burst on the standard looks better for what
see,
it's worth.
I like the. I think it's because you can see the grain a little more. I think the burst on the
Yeah, maybe in person it would be. Well,
yeah,
also I think when because it goes closer to the edge on the standard, it
yeah,
looks a
it
little
does.
better.
Yeah, it
But in
does.
person, maybe that plays differently. I think the two toning with the off white knob and pickup covers on the 3-ply looks
Uh-huh.
better than the white on white.
Yep.
So that's a
Agreed.
point for the player too. But the argument that I think you're going to actually see in this comparison, which is why everyone wants to compare it to the Affinity, is out the gate. It's presumably labor in Mexico is
Yep.
more expensive than labor in Indonesia. So that's already how much money is that worth?
Yeah.
In
And
difference.
Frodo, you're
So
right. It's Indian laurel on the standard, and it's rosewood on the
yeah.
the player two. So here's the deal. There is a $200 difference here. What ultimately I think is the real problem. One, people are easily upset and like to have things to scream at, but Fender is getting really close to having. I'm going to use the Strat because it's the flagship model, right?
Hmm.
They're getting really close to having a Strat at $200, $300, $400,
Yeah.
$500, $600. At some point, you have to make a decision. Like these are all too close to each other, regardless of differences in spec.
Hmm.
That's my ultimate. That's where I end up coming back to is like how many different instruments are you going to make, and you're spreading it out over so many different factories at this point that
Yeah.
I worry about quality control, I worry about overlap in the market, I worry about customer confusion. I don't have a problem with the Fender standard guitars made in Indonesia. I don't have anything issues there. I just think Fender is muddying their waters too much, and somebody else has used that term, and I hate that term, but
So
you
you
get the
you
idea.
think you think they should have just left the gap?
I
You
think
think
they
the
should have
gap
left
should
the
have just
gap.
stayed?
I think the gap from 450 to $800 isn't a terrible gap. Is that the most affordable Fender before the standards, the $800 Player 2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because originally the Player 2 was, or the Player
Mm-hmm.
was, to everyone's impression, was just renaming the standard series and improving some spec.
Yeah.
And then now it kind of feels like they, are backing up on that. To answer
Who we got?
Section eight's question, he says, "Don't the twos also have some novel electronics?" The Plus has novel electronics. The two
Yeah.
has standard wiring.
Yeah. Oh, and,
Um,
and someone, Bertak asked, which of the saddles do you prefer? Personally, I prefer the bent steel saddles, but some people like the more modern
no, yeah,
saddles.
I'm a modern saddle guy
Yeah, I
for
like the
sure.
bent steel, but it's got to be the right bent steel. Like I just had to order new saddles for my Novo Ceres S
Yeah,
because
I don't.
nah.
It probably wouldn't affect me anymore now that I think about it. My Telecaster has the modern style saddle. My Strat actually has the vintage style saddle. But I remember, like, back in the day, when I first picked up a guitar, one of the first Stratocaster I played, though I didn't never owned it, and then it was kind of stolen,
Yeah.
was a Mexican Strat, and I hated it. But one of the reasons I hated it was because of the bent steel and the way that it's probably the real issue wasn't that the bent steel saddle, it was the adjustment screws being too long, and so I would just tear my wrist up because I'm putting my hand on the bridge, I'm playing, like, just fast pop punk kid kind of riffs on it, like, not
Yeah,
even
yeah,
riffs because I would trash at guitar. um
yeah.
but that's kind of that thing. I think Graham Campbell, this is a thing that I don't you're not wrong, but I don't know what to do with this. Like, there's so much competition these days at that price point. It's not 1998 anymore, and that is true.
Yeah.
Is that I think Fender didn't really consider how popular, or like how much this line is driving conversation about the G&L Tribute and Sire and these other brands, because honestly, like, as much as I don't think it matters, Phil coming out, well, one, the wood being spec'd as poplar, which hasn't been is a pushed model for a while,
Hmm.
um, or a pushed wood type, and then Phil McKnight coming out and saying it's a 4-piece body, which I still wonder, like, are they all 4-piece bodies?
Or was that
I know
one four-piece
I know
body?
I've seen multiple reports of 4-piece bodies. I saw somebody say the other day that the standard now is 2-piece alder, and I'm just like, wait, is it really? Like, that doesn't.
That
But
doesn't
again,
track
I
at
I
all.
I don't know. I don't really know. If I look up a Fender Player 2 on Sweetwater, like, am I gonna find all, like, 2-piece bodies? I don't really know. And hell, if you can tell in, like, pictures online half the time anyway. So there is that, but I think there's a lot to be said for, again, like, the import market, and the fact that you can get, like, a really killer guitar for pretty cheap. Yeah, I'm looking at the Sweetwater Butterscotch Blonde is, like, fully, Player 2 is, like, fully, like, none of these are transparent. I guess if you look at a Strat, three-tone Sunburst Strat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Also,
even
the
with
Player
that,
Pluses offer a transparent finish, and they're the same
yeah,
price
it's
point.
it's hard to tell how many pieces of wood without really seeing it in person.
Yeah.
Um, but so I don't know I think I'm not saying, like, yeah. And Tom's point, Tom says the old MIM standards were 5 to 7 pieces. I've found threads online where people said that their uh, MIM standards were 9-piece bodies.
That tracks.
And I've also seen people say that their 90s American standards were 5-piece bodies, because it used to, like, it was just like, there was an expectation that that you were getting a body, that the difference between, there's always been this conversation that, well, everything's made in Mexico and then it's just shipped to wherever. Like, there were
Yeah.
there were moments in time where maybe that was true, and so people would say, like, difference between an American body and a Mexican body is that they were all supposedly made in the same place. Again, apocryphal, don't know. And that American bodies were typically 2 to 4 pieces, and that Mexican bodies were like 3 to 7 pieces. And so it just kind of depended on like, and so you could get a Mexican standard Stratocaster with a 3 piece body, or you could get an American with a 4 piece body, and there was just this variety, you know. And whether or not any of that's true, it's just like as a rule, but it was people's experiences. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
And
Um,
I think it's every individual guitar too, because the
yeah,
thing is, they're making these things to a price point, and to get it at that price point, there's not room for waste. You're
yeah,
gonna get what you're gonna get.
and to come back to what Graham's saying is, I think Fender has definitely has an optics problem with this because of the
Yeah,
competition that's out there. Um, but I think like the reaction that somehow this makes it a worse guitar, that the people who went to NAM and had an opportunity to pick one of these off and said like, yeah, they're fine. Like it's $600. If you think that Ibanez makes a better guitar, then just buy it. You know, that's fine too. Like just go buy that thing. That somehow by telling people, yeah, these Fenders are fine, like they're not affinities, stop saying they're affinities just because they're specs. But if you think like they're Sire or GNL or whoever makes a better guitar, then go buy it. Somehow that makes you a Fender shill by saying like that the
I know.
guitars are fine,
They're
like
fine.
that it's fine.
They
Uh,
literally exist. They're fine. I love this because Michael Krause has illustrated the very essence of never knowing what you're going to get when things are made to a price point. Norland era Les Paul, 1 piece mahogany.
yeah.
Yep. But you can just as easily find a 5 piece mahogany body from the Norland era. And you know, nobody wants to talk about this, but this Firebird behind me, right? Gibson
Hmm.
Firebird, that is 9 pieces. Because the wings are
Right.
each 1 piece and it's 7 piece neck through all the
But
way through. But
that's by
nobody.
design.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason people think it's different. Oh, they meant to do that.
Right, right.
That's the only, because it's still 9 pieces no matter how you shake the stick at it, right?
Yeah.
So, oh, well, they meant to do it so it's different. It's not. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Ian says they should have been high-end Squires. Here's a question. Here's a weird question.
Are you about to go to the conversation we had a couple of days ago, Steve?
No. Oh,
Okay.
about my Les Paul?
About just Les Paul, Epiphone versus Squire,
No, no,
and
no. I
the
never.
business models between the two.
What I'm wondering is whether or not Fender had to bring back the standard. Like if there's, I
Mm.
guess it's been like 8 years, so maybe there's. I can't imagine that you could trademark the word
Yeah,
standard.
I think that would be impossible.
But there is something to be said for like, because I always heard this with Ford.
Uh huh.
You know, I think that the Ford Mach E Mustang is a goddamn travesty. The fact that they are
Oh yeah,
calling, like, in my opinion, the Ford, uh, they should have launched, and maybe there's a parts problem where they couldn't, but I think the Ford electric truck, the Maverick, should have been called the Sport Track or something like that,
uh
like
huh.
going riffing off of the old Explorer Sport Track, because it looks more closely related to that.
Yeah,
And that the Mach E Mustang should have been called the Maverick because it's Fender making an electric car. What is more Maverick than an American company making a crossover like a crossover utility vehicle hybrid?
yeah,
That should have been the Maverick. It fits the theme. I can see how the truck thing fits this theme. The Maverick was a car
yeah. It
in like
was.
the 70s.
I
And
really
my
like the new Ford Mavericks too. By the way,
um
drummer a
but
drummer for me has one, and we took it to a gig a couple of times because we could fit a bunch of stuff in the back of it, and they're real nice.
yeah,
I like
but
them a lot.
from what I understand, um it's easier for a company to like bring back an old name like that. Yeah, Michael Cross Fender always reads his old names.
Yeah,
I find it
let's
confusing and
talk about the
annoying.
Tone Master.
Or
The
the Starcaster.
No, the original Tone Master. The original Tone Master was a custom shop 100-watt amplifier with a 412 or a 212.
Yeah, yeah,
And now it's a I'll stop.
I mean, the Starcaster was originally a, Gibson's entry into the semi-hollow market, or their, I guess it was their
You
second
mean
entry because
you
they
mean
had the
Fender's entry?
Coronado.
Yeah.
What did I
You
say?
said Gibson.
Gibson. Sorry, it was Fender trying to do the Gibson thing, the
Yeah.
Starcaster, and then they brought it back in the early 2000s as the guitar that they sold at Walmart.
Oh my God, I
So
had one of those. Somebody gave it to me because they didn't know what to do with it. I have never held a bigger piece of trash in my entire
yeah, they were
life.
they were bad. I agree with Matt Weaver. Epiphone should bring back the Japanese build Elitis. I think
I think
those
they need
were
a different name.
really great.
I think the name was problematic.
But yeah, I just think that there are things. MJD says Yamaha has synthesizers with the same name as their motorcycles. Is that true? It sounds like it's true. It sounds like it's something that I would believe. Certainly.
Hero,
So
they can't use the name Broadcaster because it is trademarked by Gretsch. Gretsch,
the
yeah, yeah.
broadcaster?
They can't bring
Yeah.
that name back, and for the same reason they stopped using it. Not only does Gretsch still use it for drums, they now also use it for a guitar.
Yeah.
So, what's up, Bully?
You had the Fender Starcaster pedals. I saw a comment in here earlier when you should an ES335 from Bertec, do you count each layer of plywood as a piece on a ES335?
Yeah, exactly. Laminate tops. Nobody talks about that.
So uh yeah, I don't do the Reverends have
Well,
ceramic pickups? I don't really
also,
I don't know.
if we're gonna talk about plywood as being different pieces, those '90s made in Mexico
Oh,
standards were renowned for sometimes being made from plywood. I had a couple. They were
yeah,
real bad.
there's a couple years in there that are
Yeah.
not great. Um
Tom,
yeah,
FMIC makes Gretsch. They do not own the trademark. The Gretsch
no.
company still exists as a separate entity. Fender builds for them. It's a weird relationship. Fender still can't use the name unless Gretsch allows them to use the name. They are still, like I said, they're still separate companies. Fender builds under an agreement with Gretsch.
The Reverend Greasy T, which is their Telecaster bridge pickup, is a ceramic magnet pickup. So, and
So ceramic pickups get a bad rap. They can sound good. They, to me, most of the time don't, but they can sound good.
yeah.
It's not like ceramic instantly means bad. It's the same thing in the speaker world. Ceramic speakers can sound great. The
Mhm.
quintessential tone of a deluxe reverb is with a ceramic speaker.
Right. Right.
So,
So the Fender thing, I'm at the point where maybe I'm coming around to like the criticism a little bit, just a small bit, not like hugely, but I'm also just I'm getting tired.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like I'm getting beat down by the haters. It's not like, I mean, because everyone feels really strongly about this, and for some people, Fender is a legacy brand, and this is diluting the pool too much. Like you said, like, do they really need a $600 price point? Are they
Yeah.
actually? And if they do need a $600 price point, like, can they spec them better? I just don't. I don't know, man. Here's my final thought on Fender.
Uh-huh.
Just buy it or don't buy it. Go try it out. I did mention somewhere that I do think it's funny that the same people who want to argue about tone being in the fingers or whatever, I think are the same people who want to say but it's poplar. How dare they use such
I
a
know.
cheap piece of wood?
Nova uses
Uh,
pine.
yeah.
Um,
So,
Coyote Stardust aren't the most popular guitar speakers. Ceramic. Um, it's really, it depends on how you want to say popular. Majority of speakers today, I think, are ceramic. Um, Alnico may be less common, but I think as far as popularity of what people want, it's a pretty even split. Your folks who like lower wattage amplifiers and probably play cleaner to edge of breakup styles of music pretty usually prefer Alnico. Your people that use higher wattage amps that use more overdriven from the amp sounds, they typically use ceramic. These are all stereotypes. This is all
Yeah.
generalization. But that's just because of the typical higher power handling of ceramic speakers.
Yeah. Tom says the Squire Classic Vibe 50s tellies are pine.
Yep.
Hal wants to know why he can't see the chats on screen. It's because they're all on the 60 cycle hum
Yep.
live stream and not on the other one.
Yep. Sorry, Hal.
And Bully says, have you ever played through a Neo speaker setup? I have. Have you?
I have. I've got in one of my cabs. I've got the Port City Granville,
Mm-hmm.
which was the Rhett Scholl collaboration they did,
Right.
and
Right.
that cabinet has a 10-inch and a 12-inch speaker. I think it's 10 and 12. I don't think it's 10 and 15. But the 10 is a neodymium
Yeah.
in it. It sounds great.
I had an Avatar 1x15 bass cab back in the day. And it had a neodymium 15 in it, and that thing was crazy. I mean, it was still like, because of the cabinet, it was still like a 30-pound speaker cabinet,
Yeah.
but it was the lightest, aside from my bass. It was the lightest part of my bass rig, because I had a 1x15, a 4x10, and like my bass head was a acoustic B3, which I think is like a 300-watt solid state head. That thing by itself, I think, weighed 55 pounds. The
I used
head.
I used to use a Carvin rig, one of their, I don't remember what it was called, R600, B600, something like that. And I had a 210 cab, and that one I'm pretty sure had neodymiums in it because I could carry that 210 cab in one hand. So I'd have
Yeah.
the bass on my back, the head in one hand, the cab in the other, and walking into my gig.
Yeah. I don't know if they were there this year, but I know there's a company, it might be GR base, maybe. I don't remember. I bet Bully knows. That made it's a carbon fiber base cabinet the with neodymium speakers, and so you can get like a 2x10 that weighs like 20 pounds. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think this is a really, I think Mark DeBruyn's got a really good point here. That, not to keep harping, because I know we're kind of moving away from the standard conversation, but I think this is the thing. Once again, the problem is not the quality of the standard series, but the use of the Fender brand on Asian made guitars. It may be stupid, but the buyers care, the brand should care. And yes, they have made other Asian made Fenders before. I think Fender misunderstood the, I don't know, relative success of the Tom DeLonge Starcaster because it was also made in
Mm,
Indonesia. I think they
mhm.
misunderstood that success as people being okay with Indonesian made Fenders more than they just really wanted a Tom DeLonge Starcaster.
Right.
So I think that's ultimately going to be the case, that Fender, if it matters to players, it should matter to Fender. And it may be that Fender said, okay, we're going to try this for a year, 2 years, see how it goes. And if people absolutely hate it, we nix it.
Yeah. I like, it's interesting because it's not even, I don't even know that it's, if they were to drop something in that was like just weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the paranormal right now? That they still make
450.
those.
Yeah,
Are they
paranormals are
450? So they're
450.
actually more than the cloud. No, the Squire Paranormal Custom Nashville is 380
Are you serious?
at Sweetwater right now. So I guess it depends on the model.
Yeah, because I
Um
think I really only care about the Rascal Base, and I think the Rascal Base is still
but they were
450.
430. So they were the same price
Oh, they're
as,
down to three. They're 399 right now. If you
yeah,
want one.
they're getting marked down somewhat. I think if they would have come out with like, I don't know if they would have called it the Performer. I'm trying to think, but something that was like, say, $500 out of the Indonesian factory.
Uh huh.
I think slapping the standard tag on it. Oh, here's my other take. I kind of already said it earlier, though. The standards weren't nearly as good as people are acting like they were.
No, they're not. They're not.
Um,
T. Garter, we covered this earlier. just because it has not just where it's made that's different. PRS has its own factory from Cortec building to a certain standard. Indonesia,
Yeah.
Korea, China, insert Malaysia, insert your eastern country in here, is capable of building guitars at any quality level.
Yeah.
They're
Bert's
absolutely capable of custom shop level. They're capable of that nasty 90s Starcaster thing that Walmart sold, early
yeah.
2000s. It's all about how much the company that's having them built wants to invest in them and then turn around and
Right.
have to charge for
Which
them.
is the same reason why you can get like uh a guitar from China that is, whatever the current quality is on like the best Fireflies that are coming out, or Donner
Yeah,
or Moore. Uh, or you can get, whatever Ryan got when he got that knockoff Rickenbacker. Those things are all, that Rickenbacker is probably made in the same factory that Donner is made in.
yeah. And
It's
Donner
just a
guitars
matter.
are the two Donner guitars I've played have been great.
Yeah, it's not about, Sir Frodo says it's not about country of origin, it's about quality standards.
Yes.
And if you want quality standards, you're going to pay for those. Backing up Tom, yeah, Tom, Fender made the light ash in Korea. That was 20 years ago. The modern players were made in China. When the modern players came out, there was like some hubbub around that. Like people
Yep.
were kind of mad about it, and they kind of either embraced it or they didn't. Those were kind of
Notice
a
the
weird
players are not
guitar.
made in China anymore.
Yeah, well, but now they're the player guitar, not the modern player.
I know, but still, they
We need
don't do that series in China anymore.
Would they? Well, they don't make them at all anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still make some
Uh,
things called the player, so
but oh no, that's used. That's used. They're all
yeah, yeah.
used.
Don't look at the
Um,
used.
and then Burtek saying, I don't know how much of a generalization this is, but every paranormal has been better than the classic vibe. I have been told repeatedly by RJ that basically the COVID killed the classic vibe. That the classic vibes were flying off the shelves in 2020, 2021. Fender could not, in order for Fender to keep up with production, they basically had to kill their QC a little. And
Yep.
that the classic vibes made over the last 4 to 5 years are not as good as they were in like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
um I've
It's, pro-
never,
it's
played them side by side, so I can't speak to
I
that,
haven't
but
either, but I do know. So there was all speculation. The Fender layoff of like 300 employees. They canned the guy that designed the Acoustasonic. Um, they during that time period, the speculation was that the reason they had to let so many people go, one, quality control was falling under their standard. They were having a lot of stuff having to circle back through. I can't remember the term they used for it, but also during 2021, early 2022, they overbought slots in their facilities building the classic vibes, and then the market slowed back down to more normal levels and they couldn't move them, and they buy all of those things on credit. They
Mhm,
buy them
mhm.
on credit to pay off as they sell, and it wasn't selling and the bill came due. That's the speculation. I can't prove that. I'm sure somebody knows better than I do. I'm just here to give you rumor and conjecture.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I guess everyone's gonna have their opinion. Everyone should just get over it and buy the thing, or not buy the thing.
Yeah, I that's isn't that the end result though? The market will decide if they are worth, because here's the deal. You 62 or 65 that are still with us in the chat, or watching this later, those of you who watch YouTube videos on gear like this, sit through 2 hours of me and Steve just
Mhm.
ranting about things, you are in the minority of guitar players. The majority of guitar players don't give two shits about any of this. They're going to go to their local guitar store. They're going to try a bunch of stuff out. They're going to buy what they can afford, and they're going to go play their weekend bar gig at the VFW.
Yeah.
That's the average
Yeah.
guitarist. We are not the average guitarist, and I definitely don't mean in guitar ability, because I'm definitely at or below the average guitarist in
Yeah.
ability. But
But I mean, I think that speaks to the idea that like people who are fans of the brand, it's not even so much that they're gatekeeping, it's that like the way you describe it is like makes it sound like they're taking advantage of the market.
Yeah.
which I mean, every brand in some way is trying to take advantage of the market.
Yeah. Because they're
So
a for-profit company. They want to make money.
yeah.
I mean, how else is that Hawaiian car dealership gonna, make money? I, no reaction to that. Nothing.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just,
you get it.
who owns Sweetwater now? No,
I don't know. It does another Hawaiian car manufacturer own Sweetwater
yeah.
too? I mean, car
I li-
dealer.
I like how RJ joins the live stream, but not as Teletalks.
Oh, what did he join as? Did I miss it?
No, it's right there. I won't call him out because I don't think it's a secret, but
Oh, I got
I
you.
just think it's funny. Um,
Oh no, I see. I'm sorry. I needed to scroll down in the chat a little further.
yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
Anyway, I don't know. We're about to hit that 2 hour mark.
Yeah, we're getting real close.
We're kind of hitting the edge there. I
We're
don't know if
edging
there's more
again. Is that what you
questions.
said?
Jesus. Um, yeah, Coyote started something private equity will destroy us all. I mean, private equity's kept my company in business, but I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. Um, and I just think all I can say is, um,
Bully.
well, Marshall is Chinese now, so
Yeah, I mean,
that's
apparently,
Marshall's not
supposedly,
Marshall's not Chinese now. Like,
they're primarily owned by a company based in China.
yeah. Now that Hongshan Capital Group, I didn't mention this on the podcast. I should have. I had intended to. The brands that they are partnered with is like pretty wild.
Hmm.
So here you go, RJ. Here's the thing for you. Hongshan Capital owns a bunch of brands. I'm trying to find that list. They include after Sequoia China raised more money from U.S. institutional investors and built a successful investment record which includes Alibaba, JD, Meituan, and ByteDance. So in
Oh,
2025, expect to see all Marshall products for sale in the TikTok shop.
wait, 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 wait. Hongshan is the company that has ByteDance?
Well, they're a capital group, so who knows
Okay.
what that actually means? But yeah, their portfolio is massive.
1,500 investments.
but
Woo.
but it includes Alibaba. It includes so the Alibaba group, so that's AliExpress. Um, it includes let's see, I'm trying to this website loads so slowly. BYD, I believe BYD is involved in like electric cars. ByteDance, Canva, um,
Oh, really? Canva?
Canva. Let's see. I'm just
Uh,
looking at the
while you're
things I
looking that,
recognize on here.
Bully Marshall has done base amps in the past, but I do not believe they have a base amp in their current lineup.
Yeah, they're in pharmaceuticals. There's a company called Innovent that maybe people might not know. Um,
But I'm gonna share this while you're chatting. But Bully,
uh-huh.
they did make this at one point. The VBA 400 watt tube bass amp with an 8x10 cabinet, and it can be
Hmm.
yours
Hmm.
for the low price of $2,900. Luckily, unfortunately it is local pickup only, but it is in that major transit and traffic hub of Lebanon, Indiana. So,
Yeah. Hongshan Capital is also invested in Neo, which is another electric car company.
oh,
They're invested in Moderna. They're invested in Pinduoduo, which Pinduoduo is I believe the company that operates Timu.
it's a huge company.
They're invested in Shane, which is the clothing, basically the clothing version. They're invested in Segway. Like
Wow.
so it's the thing that they're talking about is in the articles when you actually like take the step back. They're invested in a company called Wuxi, which Wuxi is a competitor of sorts with the company that I work for, Wuxi Biologics.
Hmm.
Um, So it's the kind of thing where really this is kind of Hongshan expanding into the European market a little bit. But yeah, Vinny's World says Hongshan Group is basically Sequoia China after the split. That's exactly what it is.
Gotcha.
Why Marshall? Because Marshall was for sale.
That's
That's
it.
are they vulnerable? I don't know. I don't know. Marshall, I feel like there's a missing piece somewhere, but maybe it's because I don't necessarily understand how, like, what was going on there. But Marshall was bought by Zound. Marshall Amplification was bought by Zound, who, from what I understand, Zound was basically OEMing Marshall's Bluetooth speaker lineup. So
Correct. So they
then,
were already licensing the name for
yeah.
those.
And so they just decided to buy the whole thing pretty much. And then they rebranded themselves as Marshall Group. So when they bought it, the Marshall family basically retained the Marshall amplification segment of it, uh, and it was just being overseen, I guess, by Zound. And Zound already had a bunch of private investors involved in that company.
Yep.
So that happened 2 years ago. From what I've read, the brand overall did very well in 2024. And so this is almost like a classic private equity move where when you think about Guitar Center gets bought and sold more than like some things that probably shouldn't be said on a live stream at 11 in the morning.
Yeah.
But basically, Guitar Center goes from private. The reason Guitar Center never goes out of business is because they're private equity fodder, and they just get bought and sold and bought and sold and bought and sold and bought and sold. And so, yeah, so Acyprian. So the property that they want isn't even JCM 800s or any amps at all. It's just what we associate. That's correct. In the guitar market, that's what we associate with. But there's other things going on that, and now that it's the Marshall Group contains way more than and that. And when they sold, it's not just, it was Telia Company is one of the brands. They had a 9.6% stake in the
Mm-hmm.
Marshall Group. There's a bunch of brands who were a bunch of other private equity and whatever groups. The major selling shareholders were Altor, Telia Company, Time for Growth, and Zenith Venture Capital. So those five companies entered into an agreement with Hongshan Group, valuing the company at 1.1 billion euros. The Marshall family retained a 20% stake, so they were the only part of that didn't sell.
Yeah.
It's an identity thing, I guess. There's an assumption, and it's not like the TikTok thing is kind of a joke, to be honest. And because what I found in my experience is that private equity, the people at the very top, maybe every once in a while they do run a strategic partnership, but the reality is that they kind of just sit there and say, this is how much money you have, figure it out. And if
Yep.
you can't figure it out, then we're gonna fire your CEO. Like, the CEO of my company is the CEO of my company, and he reports to the board of directors of the equity group that owns my company. And if my company's not making money, they won't shutter. Maybe eventually they'll shutter the company, but the thing that they'll do first is they'll get rid of the CEO. They'll get rid of the rest of the C-suite, and then they'll try again. They've
Yep.
done this over, a few times, over and
And for
over.
the
So
most part, Marshall will probably continue to be built done the exact same way they currently are built. Nothing will change in that regard unless things financially are taking a tailspin. That's typically how it works. Because Marshall, the Marshall family, when it sold to Zound, owned a 20% stake. They just went over to this, so they continue their 20% stake. As far as I understand, they're going to continue to be built in the UK, and I can't remember which country was building their not UK built stuff. Um,
probably China.
Probably
Was it
China.
not China?
I really don't know.
I know they
Um,
were building in Was it Vietnam they were building in for a while, but that was years ago.
yeah. Um, Vietnam. They're still in Vietnam, or at
Yeah.
least according to the AI response I got. They're still built in Bletchley, Milton Keynes, England, and
Hmm.
Vietnam.
Excuse me.
So
Yeah. So that's Marshall. You know, they're just, I think, going to be one of these brands that just, I don't. It's such big news when it happens, but it's kind of like, I think it happens more than than maybe we realize it does. So, uh, I'm gonna say let's take questions for like another 5 minutes, and then we
yeah,
wrap it up. And maybe if there's no questions, I haven't asked. How are you doing? Did you get sick from Nam?
I did not. Man,
Yeah,
I felt
I
great.
didn't get sick either. I guess we talked about that a little bit at the beginning. Um, I did buy a new thing. I don't know
Oh,
when it's
what'd you
going to get
buy?
here, but I talk about it tomorrow. Um, I bought the Bees Music Keeley Super Rodent.
Oh yeah, you told me you were gonna
I
do
was
that.
actually waiting for that to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen. I just figured hopefully eventually it would, because I wanted to try it because it's a Keeley take on a rat.
Sure.
Um, and so I was just kind of like sitting on it, and and then it happened, and as soon as it happened, I was like, well, I need to get this. So
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to be. I probably won't actually. I talk about it on the episode we just Ryan and I just recorded on Thursday, so I'll talk more about it on tomorrow's episode, and links and whatnot tomorrow's episode. But I don't know when I'm actually going to get it. I don't think I'll actually have it on the show for like a month,
Oh
because
wow.
because we're supposed to record again next week.
Yeah.
There's no way, like if we record on Tuesday, and even if they were to ship on Monday afternoon, like obviously I'm not going to have it on Tuesday, and then it'll be 2 weeks from next Tuesday. So it'll be at least 3 weeks before I talk about it on the show. Tom asked, did either of you guys get in on the mystery box from Running Cuff? Yeah, let me grab that.
While he's getting his, Tom, yes, I did, and then I sold it because it wasn't the one I wanted. Steve, I just told him I did get in on it, but then I sold because I got the same one you got.
Can I get this in focus? It's nah, I can't. It's designed to be focused on my face. I don't turn autofocus on. I just
See, I
focus
do.
on the face, and there we
Mine's
go.
got autofocus, so if I do this, it should. There it
Yeah.
goes.
I mean, I could turn autofocus on.
I know you've got the same
I
camera I do.
don't.
Um,
I don't want to deal with I you ever watch somebody's guitar demo and their autofocus is just going crazy the entire
yes,
time?
I
I'm always
know, I agree.
um Luna says, is the rodent a rat and an SD1? That's my understanding. They're calling it a Japanese Super O,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure that's a Boss SD1.
Steve, I
Which,
also bought something. I bought it literally on the plane to Nam, and then it got here.
what is that?
That's for the people that complain we never play guitar on this.
Oh.
This is a Republic brand
Hmm.
mini Olean. So it's a Duolian style resonator in a parlor size. So
Ah, okay. And Luna says they missed my Chase Bliss mystery box. Let me grab that.
Luna, I also, while he's grabbing that, I got the mystery box. I've already traded my Chase Bliss mystery box too.
But I got the Billy Strings Womb Tone.
What do you think of it so
There
far?
we go.
Have you
It's
plugged
a
it in?
phaser. I mean, yeah, I have. I just haven't. It's a phaser. It does some weird things that a phaser I'm not used to, a phaser doing. So I haven't tried to get like too crazy with it. But uh, Ryan got the clean.
I got a clean and then traded it for somebody else's mystery box.
Yeah.
And I got a
Uh,
Mood Mark II and an EXP out of it. So
Backing up to a couple things. Bully says, I want that new dark glass pedal. It's an artist sig. It's a filter envelope and octaver, which seems
ooh.
really different for dark glass, but
Yeah,
that's
it really
cool.
does. That sounds kind of classic for octave envelope filter because I don't know the name of it.
Uh,
The dark glass Kamos Amos Heller? Kamos Kamos? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Oh, is that the name of the pedal?
Yeah. Uh, Kaamos.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the band.
Me
Um,
either.
and that's a signature?
Amos
That's a
Heller. Amos Heller is the artist.
Amos Heller.
Um,
Apparently he's the bass player for Taylor Swift.
okay. That's a very interesting one.
Yeah. MJD says I saw someone trying to sell his mystery box as a mystery box without saying which pedal was in it. I think you can't do that on Reverb. You could maybe do it
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
Reverb
uh,
won't let you do it, obviously.
Hill says Rockman thoughts. Do you have Rockman thoughts?
So I was with Joan of Heart from Pedal Playhouse when she found the vintage one she found at the Amigo Guitar Show in Costa Mesa, and I heard her play that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I so here's the deal. They're gonna sell a bajillion of them. I'm in a group on Facebook from a guy who's been like innovating the Rockman into different phases. You have to,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Joe
I've
invited me to
seen
that
those.
group. Yeah, so someone in there said if you want the new Rockman X100, get your orders in now because apparently like Sweetwater, I don't know where their information is coming from. This is one person, it's the person who runs that group, said
Mm-hmm.
that they are 1,500 back orders deep.
Jeez.
So it's gonna sell a shit ton no matter what I say right here. I will say
Yeah.
that that is not a sound I chase. I have no interest in it. I understand a lot of people do. So
You don't want to sound like what your guitar that's holding its nose.
This has never been a sound that I thought was particularly pleasing, so I'm not going to go for that.
I'll say it's just, I mean, it is the sound of a lot of 80s like rock bands. So
it is. It was also apparently the Surfing with an Alien sound. He used it a ton on that
oh,
record.
interesting. Yeah, didn't
So
know that.
yeah, I didn't either until all this fuss came out about it. I hope it does well. I think it's great that they're making things that people want. That's
Yeah.
all I've got. I'm trying not to. I'm not gonna dog on it because it's just not my vibe. So,
Yeah,
um,
and Dunlop's it's probably the kind of thing where Dunlop has probably been getting pushed. They've owned the Rockman license for a
a
while.
long time.
Um, so I guess honestly, I wonder if I know companies plan these things, it takes a year or two to figure this stuff out. Hi, Mark.
What's up, Mark?
So many Marks in the chat
I know.
today. But part of me wants to know if like the combination of I feel like the Rockman X100 reissue timing, it is not a coincidence that it happens at the same moment that yacht rock tribute bands are popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
And and you know um Rick Beato made a video about why the term yacht rock is bullshit, and that got like a million and a half views. No, that's literally the title of the
I
video.
know. I know it is. It's just, man, just Rick.
Oh,
If
it's just, yeah, it's yacht rock is bullshit is the title of the video. And there's also like a documentary about called yacht rock. uh oh my, I'm seeing response videos like Rick Beato has a problem. So somebody, thing that right away there's a link that says Beato gets offended yacht rock and genre labels. People, whatever, I don't know. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
watch his Grammys take either.
I didn't
I
either.
kind of thought about it, but
If Rick only did interviews, I would watch every single video he does. I love his interviews. I really do. But some of the like rants and whatnot, I'm like,
yeah. um
as an
I,
old man who yells at clouds, I can't listen to other men yelling at clouds.
I do want to hit this. Tom says, is it licensed or do they own the rights straight up? My understanding is it's licensed and that the brand itself is still owned by Tom Scholes or the Scholes estate. Tom Scholes is still alive, isn't he?
Man, I don't know.
Yeah, Tom Scholes is still alive. So my understanding is Tom Scholes still owns Rockman, but Dunlop is producing any Rockman product.
Yeah, according
Um,
to a couple of things I'm seeing, they just own the name. They bought that MXR owns the name. They own the rights to Rockman. And even
okay,
as far back as 2020, they built the Walkman style unit.
yeah.
So
So does he not own Rockman at all,
I
or
I don't know.
yeah, maybe I
Everything I'm seeing
misunderstand
is
that.
saying that MXR has the rights, but I'm not finding anyone who's saying it was sold on this date to MXR kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know.
maybe I have that wrong. I don't know. Um, Going back, I didn't read all of the I didn't well, again, I didn't watch the video, so I'm kind of
Right.
like talking just based on the comments. Of course, one of the biggest complaints I think across the board, um oh, well, I'm going to say this. Apparently Rick suggested that the Grammys should have like a seniors category because it's a shame that the roll well be and I kind of get it because the Rolling Stones won a Grammy in 2025 for best rock album?
Did
Yeah,
they
they won
really?
best rock album, and there's a whole discussion about that. And then I don't, and the Beatles won best rock performance for Now and Then. So it's like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones won Grammys in 2025. And I don't know what Rick said about it, except there was some comment about there should be like a category, like a seniors category, which I guess like makes sense in golf. But the first thing I could think of was like, oh, this just sounds very DEI. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, but the other part of it is, that, and I don't know what Rick's comment on it again, but I know a lot of people are talking about the whole like Beyonce winning best country album. But the thing is like, and that was a big controversy. But the comment that I saw a lot, and I did listen to a clip of it, not the full thing, is a lot of people were saying that Chris Stapleton should have won for best country um best country album. But the example video that I've seen, or the example song that I've seen for for Chris Stapleton, usually thrown out, is like it's a not a country song, it's a southern rock song.
Yeah.
And that's the state of country. It's like, if you want to draw genres distinctions, you just draw them. Even the best country song winner, The Architect, like Casey Musgraves, arguably Casey Musgraves has not been a country artist for like a decade,
Yeah.
because at least like her like mainstreaming breakout album Golden Hour
Mhm.
was more of a folk album
Well, if
than
you well,
a
they
country
now
album.
have an Americana category.
It and the reality is most of these things
Country.
are American are that
Or yeah,
are
yeah, yeah. I see what
labeled
you're saying.
as country are probably fall more into Americana, um, or even like maybe like roots,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I'm
roots
glad
music.
Americana finally has a category to kind of separate some of this out. I was really pumped to see Sierra Farrell win what 3 Grammys in the Americana category this year. Who I love her music, but she was never ever 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 going to be considered in a country category.
Yeah.
And so
Nick Matthews says the Grammys are rigged. It's a badge given. Yeah, but it's my
what's
point
up,
is that
Al?
it's always been that way. Like, it's
Yeah.
this isn't news. This isn't a thing worth getting like worked up about. This is more about like people wanting to be, like we talked about earlier. It's just people wanting to be mad about something. There's lots of things I think in this year's Grammys, like Sierra Farrell, I guess, won a bunch of awards, and people
Yeah.
are genuinely excited about that.
I'm
The fact
pumped.
that the fact that Kendrick Lamar won a bunch of awards for a song that he wrote in like one day and published as fast as he could because it was a diss track, uh, is a lot of fun.
This doesn't track because there's an awful lot of Canadian made country music.
Yeah. Also, one of the biggest country acts of the last 20 years is Keith Urban, and he's
He's
Australian.
Australian. Yeah.
But also to that point, this is kind of the same conversation that happened, and I didn't really get into it when Ryan and I talked about it. Is 90s country isn't country. It was all produced by freaking Dan Huff. Dan
Mm-hmm.
Huff, is that who I'm thinking of? Dan Huff and Mutt Lang, who was Mutt Lang is Shania Twain's husband.
Yeah.
All that
He.
stuff in the 90s were produced by those two guys primarily,
Mm-hmm.
who were freaking like they produced all the 80s arena rock stuff. And that's why 90s country just it sounds like Rat with a steel guitar.
Well, Mutt Lang, he's got a ton of credits, but that's AC/DC. I mean,
No,
that's
I know I'm getting the bands wrong, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my point is like some rock producers moved over to country music in the late 80s, early 90s and like push that stuff out. Now, if the Grammys and people want to talk about the DEI stuff and whatever, which I don't really want to get into the political thing except to say that who's that South African guy? I'm so mad that I can't remember
Country artist.
country artist. He's from South Africa and he wears like a mask. What the oh my gosh. Um
Are you talking about Orville Peck?
Orville Peck. If they really wanted to make things screwbally, Orville Peck would have won Best Country Album. And then people
Yeah.
would have been like real thrown off. I don't know if he actually had an album in 2024. He did. It came out in August, and
Um.
it did not chart on hit 159 on the top 200.
Yeah. Tom. Yes. Mutt Lang produced Def Leppard as well.
Yeah, Bully says wasn't Beyonce locked out of the CMAs, but she won
She
Grammy. That's
was
and so some people
because screw the CMAs too.
there
Screw them.
there isn't there is an angle that that the Grammys are basically just telling the CMAs to kick rocks, and that's a whole conversation too. People try to have the whole argument that she didn't get played on country radio, and so the reality is that all of this, no matter what way you cut it, there there is a popularity contest angle to it. People want to say, well, this artist won this category because they had the best selling album because they were the most popular or whatever. But then they'll turn around and say, well, Beyonce shouldn't have won it because her album didn't get played on country radio. But that's the same argument in the opposite direction. You're saying, you know, Chapel Roan won Best New Artist because she moved the most units. I don't know if that's actually true. But then
Is
this
that
other
true?
person, I don't think it's true, but I'm saying, or like, that's artist X won this thing because they moved units. But then you turn around and say, well, Beyonce shouldn't have won because effectively she didn't move enough units on the country radio charts. And I think Hill is kind of like making a good point. The angle is whatever will get people to talk about the Grammys.
James, I
You
know
know,
you're being funny, but I swear to God, I hope this happens. I would love for a Beyonce signature Gibson to come out and just break the freaking internet. I
Uh,
would love that to happen.
you know what people were getting real worked up about, which I thought was amusing, and I think it's more of a reflection of what the state of the recording industry now than anything else. Um, is people got real worked up about Chapel Roan getting Best New Artist, and
Um,
and
yeah.
not because of who Chapel Roan is as a person, but because multiple Best New Artist nominees this year have been around for a while,
Mark
and
DeBrune, I would say that Beyonce's Out Country album is as country as any Luke Bryan album.
yeah, I think that's fair.
I think that's the way to think of it. I don't think Luke Bryan is country music. I don't think the Beyonce album is country music, but one of them has been accepted by country music as country music. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm
it's
saying.
Beyonce crossed the line of how much of a trap beat country music it will accept. I mean, that's the
That's
reality of it, right?
100% it.
Um, the album had buy-in from Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton.
Hmm.
So, and Linda Martell, who's like an old
Look,
uh
I'm just saying Dolly
artist.
didn't win best rock album with her rock album, and I'm pissed about it.
Yeah, yeah. Uh Beyonce also had Shabuzi on her album and Post Malone, who are considered breakout country artists this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
But the best new artist category I think is really interesting because again, especially this year, there were a lot of artists who kind of broke out, and then there became a whole argument about what is a breakout artist.
Well, it's sort of like Steve. Since you and I like baseball, we talk about this. What's considered a rookie in baseball? You'll see people get
Uh,
rookie of the year like after they've been in the league a year and a half. It feels like.
it's defined. Your rookie period is defined,
Um.
and for best new artist, there is some level of defined.
Yeah.
Um,
So according to the Grammy Awards, a new artist who releases during the eligibility year the first recording which establishes the public identity of that artist.
right. So there's a question with uh so one, a lot of the artists this year, I think that's the question is what's identity, right?
Right.
Um so and this is the problem with the way digital charts work now. Benson Boone released his first album in 2024, but he released a top 100 single in 2021. It hit exactly 100. It was number 1 in Norway. He had a top another top 100 in 2022. It only reached 82 in the US, but like people kind of knew who he was. The one that I think people were most critical of for this is Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter
Yeah.
was a Disney kid who had like a charting album in 2015. It hit number 43, and a top 40 album. It hit number 28 in 2016. So people want to argue like, well, she shouldn't have been on here. Emails I Can't Send hit 23, but Short and Sweet was a number 1. Is a number 23 album really like putting you on the chart? People want to argue about the whole uh the whole thing with her because Nonsense came out a couple years ago. I don't know if being in a meme is enough to really establish yourself in the public identity.
Yeah. I get
So
it.
that's the question. But multiple artists this year, and I think if you go back to like, I tried to go back and it's not like a one for one, but there are certainly artists where like people got mad. People who are fan, Krungbin was up for best new artist. They dropped their first album in 2015. So literally it's just that they finally got somebody to pay attention to them after 10 years. Um
So I love this one because so Teddy Swims was also nominated for Best New Artist, right?
yeah.
And so the eligibility for the 2025 Grammy Awards,
Mhm.
I had to look this up, was September 16th of 2023 to
Yeah.
August 30th of 2024.
Which
Um,
is that's
there's a weird
typical.
15-day window in there that isn't like if they do the same thing for the next period, there's a 15-day window. Teddy
Mhm.
Swim's album was released on September 15th, not the 16th. So it was one day outside the eligibility window.
Oh, yeah, somebody who was it just because I'm bringing it up on the side looking at all the awards.
Yeah, yeah.
Matt Weaver, didn't Bonnie Bear get best new artist? Yeah, Bonnie Bear got best new artist in 2012. For Emma Forever Ago came out in 2007. So
Yeah.
for people who like were hipsters or friends with hipsters like me, Bonnie Bear was an artist I had already written off by the time that he became best new artist. Now I've listened a little bit more and I've gotten over the fact that Justin Vernon just sings in an octave that I don't understand. I don't know why it exists for male singers, but that's where he sings. The fact so especially for Emma Forever Ago, he sings like that entire album in falsetto.
So here's another one. Best New Artist. I had to look this one up because I was curious. Shania Twain lost Best New Artist in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, what was the name of that album? The Woman in Me. It was the first that album. Um,
Yeah, sure.
so
Why not?
that was her second album.
Mm-hmm.
That was not her first album. Her first album
I
came outside of that window. She lost to Hootie and the Blowfish, by the way.
Yeah, I think
Um,
second out. I think winning off of your second album is, and the thing is it's not just about the album because we're talking about albums a lot.
yeah,
But Hootie and the Blowfish won in 1996 off of the July. Their album was released in July 1994, but it probably means most of their singles were dropped within the window.
yeah,
So there's single timing. There's different things. It's really hard to pin down what it is. Also, the rules have changed, and the reason the rules changed is because in I believe it was 2009, Lady Gaga was not eligible. Well, Greg Jason says the rules are arbitrary. The rules are written down in terms of the entry, but in 2009, Lady Gaga was not eligible for Best New Artist because in 2008 she was nominated for Best Dance Song for the song Just Dance. Her album did not come out until I think later that year,
mm-hmm.
and then she went super big. Um, and and so there's a whole that they actually changed the rules after that to where it you could still win a Grammy for Best New Artist even if you had won a Grammy in like the previous year. What they've done is they've created more blocks. One of the controversies that got dropped off of all this is Tate McRae was not eligible for Best New Artist this year, despite 2024 being Tate McRae's really breakout year. She does have multiple albums. Her first album came out in 2022, but the problem being that, from what I understand, she applied for Best New Artist. She has singles going back to 2017, with her first top 100 in Canada single being in 2019, her first top 20 in the US being in 2020. So one of the rules for Best New Artist is that you can only um, apply 3 times. So that's the first thing, is where do they come up with these people? It's you apply for Best New Artist, you can only apply 3 times. So
Yeah,
Tate McRae was huge in country music in 2023 and 2024, but was not eligible for Best New Artist because she had already burned all of her Best New Artist applications. You can only apply 3 times.
yeah.
uh
I. By the way, y'all, those of you commenting about Grammys, Steve is definitely more invested in this than me.
I just think it's interesting. This is, to me, like the Grammys is just another Fender Standard argument. Like,
Yes, it's.
and
I haven't watched a Grammy ceremony like the a broadcast probably since I was a teenager.
yeah, I enjoy the Grammys because I think the live performances are usually pretty fun to watch. And
Yeah,
I
but this
haven't
is
done it
why I
this
don't
year.
watch them. I know that I can get those later on YouTube.
Yeah. And Matt Weaver says, I mean, Injustice for All lost to Jethro Tull. Maybe they were Jason fans. And I mean, that's a whole thing too, is it's like people want to come every year. People want to complain about the Grammys got this wrong. The Grammys got this wrong. The Grammys have been getting it wrong since the beginning. And also, if you look at like the inaugural classes of the rock and roll, which we've talked about this
Oh, the Hall of
before,
Fame. Oh gosh.
if you look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and people want to say, oh, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't about rock and roll anymore. Yeah. So tell me about James Brown's rock and roll albums. Tell me about Sam Cooke's rock and roll albums. Tell me about, you know, Little Richard, I would say, is arguably more rock and roll than James Brown or Sam Cooke. Even James Brown, I already know that that's a controversial take. Or you look at like the next year, is Aretha Franklin a rock artist? Is Marvin Gaye a rock artist? Let's see who else is in here. Is Smokey Robinson a rock artist? Is Jackie Wilson, I would say, is a rock artist. I love
Yeah.
all of these artists. I think they 100% belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But if you're going to argue that Madonna doesn't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where were you in 1988 when the Drifters got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or the
Exactly.
Supremes, or Otis Redding? Like,
I understand influence on rock and roll, but you got to decide at some point, are they rock and roll? Even if they influence it, there's so much blues that influence rock and roll that isn't rock and roll. And I sort of understand like wanting to
Oh yeah,
pay homage to it, but
I'm
it's
not even
not the thing.
I'm not even picking on the fact that like, and the thing that's really shitty about this all, yeah, Bo Diddley's was, I think in the first, was in the second class
Yeah.
of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. BB King, blues
Hey,
artists, and here's the really shitty theme about all of this.
Al, that was the entire second hour of this live stream was the Fender
Here's
Standard.
here's the really shitty thing about all of this is I think every artist I've named is a black artist.
Yeah.
uh that's but and but the reality is let's be honest, like, rock and roll from its at its core in the 60s was just ripping off of black music. So
Yeah, at 100%. Absolutely was. And so here's my thing. Let it be what it is. Like, I don't get worked up about these things because I don't care enough to get worked up about it. Like, here's a fun one for you because I decided to look it up and see. Do you know who won the very first Grammy for Record of the Year? Don't look
it
it
was
up.
something
Don't look it up.
dumb. It
Yeah.
wasn't it like the, well, I shouldn't say it's dumb. Wasn't the very first Grammy for I know one of the early noms, if not a winner, was the Charlie Brown Christmas album.
Yeah. Well, the very first Grammy, 1949, went to
Okay.
Henry Mancini for the Peter Gunn theme song.
Okay. So I didn't go back far enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
1959, not 49. Sorry, 59.
yeah. Was that the year? Was that also the year that one? Uh,
I don't know.
was that the same year? Did it beat the record of the year listings for those early ones are like so off, like so brutal. For like the record or artist of the year. So let's see, the 1950. So that's album of the year.
Yeah.
Uh, the music from Peter Gunn beat Frank Sinatra's "Come Fly with Me." Ella Fitzgerald
Really?
Ella Fitzgerald sings. Frank Sinatra sings, and Van Tchaikovsky, Concerto 1. Um,
and then record of the year was won by Nel Blue de Pinto de Blue, Valer, by Domenico Madugno.
yeah, yeah,
Beat
and it
out, beat out Perry Como, Catch a Falling Star, Peggy Lee Fever, David Seville and the Chipmunks for the Chipmunk song, and Witchcraft by Frank Sinatra.
yeah. So I mean, this is a whole thing. Um, I don't know. Here's going to be my hot take.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's end with this. I think, did we cover all the questions?
I think we did. We're just
Red
ranting
Offset's,
about the Grammys
Red
at this
Offset's
point.
eating a breakfast burrito. I wish I had a breakfast burrito.
I know. I wish I did too.
Blues is not the roots of anything. What does that
Oh,
mean? What?
that's garbage.
Okay,
Get out of here with
I
that.
don't have time to get into this. Let's talk about.
Get out of here with that.
I'm gonna end on this. Rod Stewart's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is Rod Stewart even rock and roll? Is Rod Stewart even good?
Yes, the Faces. Go listen to the Faces.
Okay, so you're saying the Faces should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
but not
the
Rod Stewart.
Faces should be. They are very
Okay.
rock and roll. If we're gonna end with a hot take, though, I'm just gonna put this on the screen. We're just gonna leave it there. That's literally the worst take I've ever seen on anything in my entire life. Period. All right, y'all. See you later.
Stay grounded.